Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome to another edition of a live movie discussion for Horrorfest 2020. I am your host, Rockin Robbie, and tonight we're talking about the entire series of Phantasm films. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I am Rockin Robbie, and joined by good old Jabba Jelani. What's up, my man?
What's up? Pretty good, man. Good to be here. Good
It's nearing Halloween time, bro.
Yeah.
And it's ramping up. Horrorfest is ramping up, and it's taken over my viewing life right now. And I'm loving it, man. And excited to be here with you, Jelani.
Yeah, dude. Always a pleasure to be here anyway. Man, but these horror movies, man, they're overtaken. You're right. It's a lot of stuff to watch. We're going through a lot of movies. So I'm pretty excited for some of these. And some, but it's a good show, though.
We're going to have a grand old discussion, especially with Dylan from Dylan's Comics here. What's up, my man?
What's up, boss? Good to be here. The fun one to talk about. It's going by too quick. I'm sad. Real sad. I wish we could live in October, like at least like 10 out of 12 months. Get Christmas, come back for October. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
I love it. I love this month, bro. I love it too much.
Hell, absolutely. You know, we've been doing this already for a few weeks, and it's already, I can see the end approaching, but we still have a lot to cover, and it's really fun. And I'm very excited tonight with Phantasm. Speaking of, we have our very own Phantasm of PCP. The official Phantasm of PCP is Brooks, the Mario Micro Mutant Monster Master Tall Man Machine. What's up, my buddy?
What's up?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Brooks. This was your first time watching these films.
That is correct, sir.
Very cool. So welcome, everybody, to Horrorfest 2020 and our look at all 5 Phantasm films. Now, I love Phantasm. This is a franchise I absolutely love. It started from the mind of Don Coscarelli. He had done a couple of independent films. He wanted to do something that maybe had a little bit more potential to be financially successful. He did a horror film. He made a 3-hour movie. They cut it down to an hour and a half, and then history has been made. There was, 4 sequels that were made over near 40 years of Phantasm history. I love the first film. I love pretty much this entire franchise. I like the first Phantasm better than any Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street film, for instance. I'm a huge fan. And I think that overall the franchise is okay. I think obviously the best film is the first one. And then they all have varying degrees of success, even in the middle of the movie. Some movies work in certain ways and other movies don't work in certain ways. And some movies don't work, it's all mishmash and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed rewatching the Phantasm films. And this was my first time watching Ravager. And we'll have some thoughts. So we're going to basically go through all the Phantasm films. But before we do that, we're going to just kind of talk about the overall feel of the franchise. And please feel free out there in the chat to join in the conversation. Jelani, what are your thoughts overall on the entire franchise for Phantasm?
Well, to be honest, for me, it's a little uneven. Like, it starts off great. The first Phantasm is amazing. And it sets a pace for what it should be coming. And what comes isn't really build what it's supposed to be for me. I mean, it's a great franchise. I get it. And this is the first time I've watched all 5 of them together. Even this is my first time watching Ravager. The first time I watched 4 and the first time I watched 5. I was not too pleased with 3. We'll get to that. But overall, I mean, like I said, it's a little uneven for me. But I love the first Phantasm. It's scary, it's haunting. Angus Scrimm is pretty much nailing it as the tall man. I mean, in every iteration of this film, every version of this film or of these films, he is consistently the best thing to me in this franchise, and he holds it together. Like, he holds it together really well, and it's just his presence. Like, even in the 5th film, his presence is still there.
Yeah.
And he's like 97 or 98 in that. And I'm like, wow, you're killing it, bro. you're straight killing it. So, I mean, overall, like I said, it's uneven to me, but it's enjoyable.
I got you. Speaking of uneven but enjoyable, Dylan, what do you think about the franchise as a whole?
As a whole, it's pretty good. I mean, it could be worse, but I'm probably honestly a fan of the first three. So it's like split, like Jelani kind of said. But I like at least the first three. I seen somebody, one of these horror shows, they said 4 was his favorite sequel. It's the second time I've watched 4 because I've always gone back and just watched the first 2, and I love them. But honestly, the first is just iconic. If there was only the first, I feel like it might even be a little bit more iconic. I don't know, maybe not, but I don't know why 3 gets a lot of hate. I know it has kind of the dumb stuff with the talking brother ball, but I still think that one's actually pretty good. I'd say, like, I mean, considering what comes after, maybe at least, but I don't know. 3, I've always had I've just always liked 3 from the start, But
yeah.
I love the first one, dude. I don't remember. We're talking about the score, right? The score, though. Either way, I got to mention it. It's phenomenal. It's iconic to me. And I was just thinking with because it goes into dimensions and all that stuff in 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's had like a heavy influence on Gideon Falls.
I mean, elements of it, like, for sure, and Dark Tower and things like that.
Yeah,
kind of tells that little little route.
It just popped into my head when I was thinking it, because I was thinking about some things. And I was like, man, I wonder, because that's one of the best horror, series out, and that'd be kind of cool if Jeff Lemire was like, yeah, man, I'm a huge Phantasm fan,
Hey, he may be 100%, but especially with the smiling guy, like and kind of being like a tall man stand-in, something like that. The franchise is a bit uneven. It's got some stuff, but what happened basically was the first one's like completely like independently made. Then Universal makes the second one, and then the third one, and then the fourth one. They just had decreasing budgets from that moment on.
Yeah,
and Ravager, they like basically had no money,
Nothing.
And so that's unfortunate because the story gets grander as the franchise goes, but the budgetary restraints get more restricted.
Keep it out.
Speaking of restrictive, Brooks, especially this being your first time watching all of these films, what do you think about the franchise overall?
I liked it. It's like it's kind of a surreal horror movie mixed in with like a action movie most of the time. Like ever since that scene in the second one where Mike and Reggie are like hitting the road and they go to the shop and they start making their weapons. And I was like, it's kind of started mixing more of a kind of an action movie in with it.
Yeah.
But but it also it always has that kind of weird surreal. You can't really trust what you see. Like you don't know if what's happening is really happening sometimes. Like you kind of have to like sift through a lot of things to figure out what actually happened in these movies. But I thought they were a lot of fun. I enjoyed the hell out of them.
Yeah, I enjoy them too. And I like that ambiguous nature to the story, to the franchise. Like Reggie literally dies in every single one of these films.
Yeah.
Almost, except for like Oblivion, he gets to go through the gateway at the end. But, and we're going to get into it, but let's talk about Reggie real quick. First of all, when you watch the first film, Reggie is just an interesting, quirky side character. And he becomes the heart of the franchise. And he's, of course, played by Reggie Bannister, who is a musician and an actor and best known for his role as Reggie, basically almost playing himself. But as the series progresses, what I love about him is that he discovers this cowardly, heroic nature to him that's very Ash-like from The Evil Dead, right? But in a different kind of way. And honestly, this is Reggie's story. If you look at all the films, a lot of it is Michael's story, but overall, if you take every single film into account, this is kind of Reggie's story, and it's his story of fighting the tall man, his story of trying to get laid for 40 years unsuccessfully. So I love the character Reggie. What do you think about Reggie Jelani?
Reggie's a trip, man. He's like, I don't know how to explain, man. I can't explain Reggie because Reggie is like an enigma. It's just this bald man with this ponytail, and he's playing guitar at the beginning. He's Ice Cream Man, and he's just reluctantly thrown into this nightmarish scenario where there are dimensions and maybe aliens and many dwarves and you know, and he reacts to it like any of us would. He's our point of view character. And you think Mike would be, but it's totally Reggie, especially in like 3 and 4, especially 3 and 4. It's like all Reggie, and 5 all the way Reggie, and it's you know he is trying to get laid and fails at it a lot.
And he's been on the road a lot.
Yeah,
it's hard on the road.
They're like, your pickup line, dude.
That's all you got, or he'll just put his hand on his shoulder of a woman.
Road is hard, man.
Like, no,
I love how he's trying to strand that kid out in the freezing ass car in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, bro. Come on, sleazy ass. You know, but he's kind of like, think of it. He's probably like a hippie, you know, and I love it. And the guitar scene with him and Jody in part one is one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise. But he anchors it, man, and he has that moment. Don Coscarelli says that when they were watching some of the stuff for Phantasm 1, and the moment when Reggie is confronted with this nightmarish situation like Jelani was describing, and he's like, what we got to do is find that tall man and put a stake right through his ass, you know? And he's like, at that moment, he noticed that there's something, wouldn't there be something crazy about this balding, ponytail wearing ex-hippie ice cream man just becoming this war hero, basically, with this fucking quad-barreled shotgun.
God.
I love it. What do you think about Reggie, Dylan?
Man, I love him, dude. He's awesome. I hear in real life he's like the same guy, man. Just cool, laid back, down to heart. I love him, man. He is without a doubt besides, Angus Scrim. Even Reggie tops Angus to me. I love it, man. Like you said, he's the heart and soul. He's so funny in it, man. He's ride or die. He's loyal. The dude should be, bathing in women because of how great of a guy he is deep down. You know what I'm saying? But it's funny to see him, kind of always get played. But I wish we could have seen him maybe finish it. In the 5th one, he's trying to get with that young ass chick, and then she's denying the hell out of him. Then he falls asleep, and she's like, Reggie, want to pick him up? And then he missed it because his old ass passed out. But I love him, man. He is awesome, man. It's crazy to see him go from the ice cream man to like you said, like Braveheart. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, right.
But he does it, man. It's funny to see in even 4 and I guess the beginning of 5. He's even he full dons the ice cream suit.
Yeah.
That's it's I guess he goes full circle with it, but
it's a nice callback, man, for sure.
Yeah. I love Reggie, man. I love the character. Just it's honestly one of my favorites. It honestly, like, it would not be the same series without him. Honestly,
for sure, 100% for sure. What about you, Brooks, man? What do you think of Reggie?
I like him. He's a fun lead. He doesn't have as much to do in the first one. But like once the second one hits and it's him and Mike hunting the tall man, I think he really starts to shine, and he carries a lot of the movies after too, pretty much. He's the guy. He's our protagonist. Because Mike's always in the movie, but sometimes he's
gone for huge chunks.
Yeah, like he gets captured for a while. He has to struggle with whatever the tall man did to him through a lot of them.
Yeah, it's a very cerebral nature when it gets into the Mike story at times, which is very detaching, I think, from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we still don't know, like, honestly, what the fuck is up with the ball in his head.
Yeah.
We don't know. It took it out. They took it out. And like he's still alive. And I'm like, what? And he's
or is he? I don't know. Who knows? That's the whole point of Phantasm. And we'll get to the idea later on, but the idea that you're not really supposed to ever know what's real and what's not in these films. It's literally why it's called Phantasm, right? So if you look at that first film, they kind of explain how it's all just a dream. But then at the end, they're like, but is it? No, not really. And it's always kind of had that ambiguous nature, except for in part 2, where it was like Universal Studios and it was the most direct, but it was also one of the most successful ones too, I think. Especially in hindsight or whatever. So let's before we get beyond all of this, what are some other characters aside from Reggie who you think really anchor this series, Jelani? And I think there's a big obvious tall one out there.
Yeah, of course, Angus Scrimm, man. The tall man is by far the prolific character in this film. He runs the show. I don't even know. I don't know if he's an alien or he's Jebediah or whatever his name was. That was actually the scientist that went into the dimensional portal the first time. I don't know because it's Phantasm. But his, like I said before, his presence is astounding.
That fucking eyebrow thing he does.
Yeah. The first one where he's just standing there and breathing like you had in the intro, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And he's just there and he's picking up coffins like they're nothing.
Yeah.
And then like as you get to like Ravager, you find out there are like thousands of him. I know we're getting too ahead of ourselves, but like it's just like, yeah, so he could be there forever. He's infinite world him. And it's just beyond. It's so scary. And
Crisis
so weird.
on Infinite Phantasms.
Yeah. So he's the most standout character. I mean, I have others, but
He's
of
great.
course he stands out. He's the best thing of to me about these films, and he's not in them that much. He's just the looming antagonist, and even though he's looming, he's ever present. Like you always know he's around, and he's up to no good. And I still don't know what his main focus was, other than I guess dimensional domination, but I don't know. I still don't know if he's an alien or
I think
that man or.
I think the whole idea is that it could be. It depends on which reality you're watching.
Yeah,
and whose fever dream you're in.
Yeah,
it could be anything because it's Phantasm, and it's one of the beautiful things about this kind of series that helps. Really good for when you're dealing with Phantasm apologetics, because you can really look at the later half of the series and a lot of pieces of all of the films and really kind of cut them into pieces, right? Especially plot-wise, like how the shotgun just reappears after he tosses it away in 2, but then it's there at the beginning of 3. It doesn't matter. It just means that we've skipped another world. The Mandela effect has taken place. But the tall man's great. Angus Scrimm is iconic in the role, and he delivers some of the best lines in the series, including one of my favorites being, "Oh, you think you go to heaven when you die? No, you come to me." Oh, it's a great one. Yeah. Dylan, what's another character you would like to spotlight in performance?
Man, probably. I mean, if not the tall man, maybe the hot ass girl from part 1 in the purple dress. That's really the tall man.
The lady in lavender.
I always
the lady in lavender. Yeah.
Why we didn't get
the guy
more
who likes to have sex in cemeteries.
Yeah.
Oh, Rocky. Oh.
I always thought that was like crazy.
Yeah,
as
baby.
hell that that he's like seducing young men and then just, pulling the card like got your ass.
Yep.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Really, that is one of the weirdest things for real. Like, oh my
I remember the first time I ever watched Phantasm, and the first time like it does that cut thing, and you're just like, what? Wait, what just happened? And I remember at a moment like at the end of the film when he stabs Reggie, that's when you're like, the tall man's her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always wanted to stab you, boy.
I've been like, wait, is the tall man like raping these boys, man? I'm like taking advantage of them. I'm like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird and it's unexplained. But honestly, you can look at that movie and be like, that's all just Mike's dream, So that's all Mike's dream.
so atmospheric, man. It should have had Goblin do the score, man. It might have really raised the bar.
I really honestly think the score is perfect the way it is. Brooks, what do you think? What's another character you would like to highlight in this series?
Rocky's my favorite out of the series.
Okay.
Yeah, I like her.
Rocky, yeah.
Rocky's so badass, like the nunchucks and shit.
Yeah.
Like I was like, on the 5th movie, I was just waiting, like, is this dude gonna pull off their mask? Is it gonna be Rocky? And like I was always disappointed. And at the end, like when it had that little kind of post-credit scene with her, I was like, what the fuck? You had her the whole time. And you just shoved her in the end of the movie.
It was a rip, but Rocky was cool, man.
I was not expecting Rocky to show up in that film.
Yeah, Rocky should have been in. Rocky should have been in too.
I was just kind of hoping, like, oh man, just give her a cameo at least.
Yeah, she was in the credits.
But like at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, she was in the credits, and I was like, oh yeah, that means Rocky's gonna be in this movie too. I was excited. I was waiting for her too, and like I heard she was in this movie, and I was like, oh yeah, and then nothing happened till the end. I was like, ah.
And they even like show some of the credits before they show her scene.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why'd you even do that?
That is weird.
People would have walked out of the theater and not even known she was in the movie.
She's a very Martha Washington type character, which I always thought. So that's super cool. So the music is done by Fred Myrow and Malcolm Seagrave. The music in Phantasm is amazing. That theme is iconic. The do 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 do. I love it. The music is best to me in the first one. It just feels more
because it's more
creepy.
Yeah.
But I love how each movie successfully kind of adds its own elements to it. Sometimes it electronics it up. Sometimes it's appropriate to the time and budget. But I love the theme. I love the music. What do you think about the music, Jillian?
Yeah, man, it's ever present. Yeah, it's the best in the first movie because it's ever present. It's right there, and it's it builds the atmosphere for the film for the first, at least the first film, and as you hear it through the other movies, you still feel, you have an idea of what the atmosphere is supposed to be with that music in the background. And they do change it up a lot in a lot of different places and other things. I think my favorite was probably other than the first movie, I'm going to say, it's in 3.
I really like the music in 3.
3 was good.
Yeah,
3
good,
is
man.
good. I've got my things about 3, man, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, it's the music's good. The music's really good throughout the entire 5 films.
Yeah. Even in Ravager, the music is still there. It's still good. What about you, Dylan? What do you think about the music?
I love it, dude. It's atmospheric. It brings the whole movie to a whole new level.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's so good. Especially in the first one, it's the best. In my opinion, I agree with Jelani. It for some reason I didn't notice it as much in the second one. I don't know why.
Because the studio production, that's probably
I figured. I had a feeling because that's always the one too that's the hardest to get is the second one because that's the one by Universal and all the other ones aren't. They're done. I think he had to get those done by himself or whatever. But yeah, the first one is so good, man. It's one of my favorite scores, man. It's probably like top 10 for real. It's phenomenal, man. I can't say enough about it. It's like I said, man, it just every time I watch the first one, I'm like, because I have I have like one pet peeve about the first one, and it's kind of Michael Baldwin as a kid. He's kind of annoying to me at times. Like, what are we gonna do, guys?
He's gonna get me. He's gonna get me, Jody. He's a
kid in a film. He's a kid in a film. We're getting there. We're getting there.
He's
a kid.
Yeah, we don't want to jump ahead too much. We're almost there. But the music's super solid, and the movies have this, especially the first one and the fourth one and the fifth one. They kind of get away from that a little bit in 2 and 3, but they're supposed to have a more surreal nature to them, right? They're a bit dreamlike and stream of consciousness. The music really helps bring that atmosphere and imaginative quality to the film in a very palpable sense. Brooks, what do you think about the music in the film series?
I like the music a lot, and like especially in the first movie, it like sounds a lot to me like very similar to Pink Floyd during the metal era of their careers.
Ooh,
like
dreamlike.
Like there was actually one point where it was like as you know, it was a scene where the music was kind of like, you know, synced up with the scene really good. And I'm like, man, this sounds like it would be something that like Pink Floyd would have done like during the metal years.
You know, they did film scores back in those days. So yeah. But that's a good point. It does have a little bit of that prog rock kind of feel to it at times, you know. That makes it similar to something like Goblin. Goblin's the same kind of it's in the same kind of vein. It really, I'm just saying.
You're right. Yeah.
I agree with you, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, great stuff, man. I love it. All right, let's talk about the film series then. We're going to start with the first one, which came out in 1979. They had a $300,000 budget that was mostly put together by lawyers and doctors and Don Coscarelli's father. It made $12 million. It was actually very successful for what it was released as, you know, because they had to they only were able to make so many prints, so they kind of had to travel it region to region, so it never had a wide release all at once, and it was huge in Japan, like literally huge in Japan. I love this first film. Like I said, I love the first Phantasm more than any Halloween, Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street. That's how much respect I have to this franchise, but in particular to this film. It's got this dreamlike quality. It's got this ethereal nature to it. The music, the performances are not always the best, but it's so forgivable because it's so obviously low budget, but they're making the most. Like, it has the lowest budget of most of these films, including Ravager, I think. Right?
Yeah.
And it looks like, to me, some of the best work. The Don Coscarelli did like all the work himself, pretty much, the editing and the photography and all that kind of stuff. I love this film. Reggie is a great character. Angus Scrimm is the tall man. We've already talked and touched on all that, but the first one does a great job of just being this really nightmare. It's a nightmare, and it's a kid's response to grief and death, and it's an exploration on that. And that's what this whole series is actually about. It's a treatise on death and existential feelings and thoughts about that, and grief and mortality. And we'll get into all that later. But this movie, to me, is the most pure, the most what Phantasm wants to be and trying to be. And it's so definitive. There could be no other Phantasm films. And like Dylan said, it could possibly even be more iconic. What do you think overall about the first film, Jelani?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. This film, I mean, the first time I saw it, I think was with you. And it really scared the pants off me. Like, because I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know what's going on, and then the ending is so jarring, and you're like, "Did he get him? He got him after all of that?" And it was just, it's so. I don't know how to explain it. Like, the whole time Mike's dead, or Mike's brother's dead, and he's been dead this whole time, or was he? And we actually go through this scene where, like, the brother, and I love the relationship between Mike and his brother, and how his brother lets him drive the car and shoot guns. He's basically, you know, we gotta ride or die. This is what it is. It is what it is. And he's like, my little brother's in this, so let's go and do this. And Mike's annoying. Mike gets on my nerves a little bit, just because he's following his brother way too much, like creepily so. Although he did save his life. He did save his life, because the lady in lavender would have got him, and it was just going to be a thing, or the tall man. But you know, he's saved by him, but he's the kid that notices all of the happenings surrounding his brother's friend's death, and he's just noticing it, and it's just like, wow. You know, maybe my parents went through the same thing. Maybe, you know, everybody slowly is dying in my town. Yeah. And, you know, it's all these story beats are so well placed, and you don't know what's happening from time to time. And that's a good thing in this film for some reason. It makes it a cohesive film, and I mean I like it. It's a horror classic. The tall man solidifies it, of course, and makes this a wonderful film. Like I'd watch this again.
Here's a great thought on Angus Scrimm as the tall man. You look at all these other characters like the Michael Myers or the Jason Voorhees or the Freddy Krueger, or even the Pinhead or the Chucky or the Leprechaun or whatever, right? There are movies in which they are just kind of cartoon, they're caricatures.
The caricatures
versions. They're ridiculous. That never happens to the tall man. The tall man never loses like his actual.
He's always the tall man.
Yeah, he's like so perfectly done, and it's great. And also the spheres. The spheres are an amazing, crazy part. Apparently, came from one of Coscarelli's dreams, so that's appropriate. And what a cool idea! And it just became very iconic. And I love how over the franchise that progresses, like what exactly these spheres are. Yeah. And it gets wild. But in the first one, that's just like it just shows up and it's just so wild. And the blood, and it's just like what? And there's all practical effects in these films until you get to Ravager. And they all look great. And I think they're fantastic. Dylan, what do you think about the first one overall?
I love it, man. I can't bring myself to spend $200 on that box set you got because it's not. I feel like five. You know what I'm saying, for 5 movies, but dude, I got the remastered Blu-ray at Walmart like a couple years back for like $5 or something, dude. It's so worth it. Like they did a phenomenal job of remastering it, and every year, man, since I've bought that Blu-ray, I forget how many years I've had it now, but it's so good, man. And I love this movie, man. Like this is the one I can watch every year. I won't probably go back to the other ones that much. Maybe like the first 3 I'll just throw on just to mess around. Maybe one day I'll go back and binge all 5 or something to see if I like the other ones, because I do enjoy the whole series. But you know what I'm saying? Like this first one, man, is just so iconic to me, man. The music, it makes it so atmospheric. It's so dreamlike. The tall man is just, at its best. I want to say, I can't remember if it's this one. I think it's the second one where he's like backhanding dudes and shit. I love that movie.
That's the second one.
That's the second one, yeah. But I love it, man. It's such a good movie, man. And I feel like it's not that well known, maybe a little bit more nowadays. But I feel like like the tall man, he is like, that secret that horror fans have been like holding on to, because not a lot of people, give him that much respect. I feel like it's always, Michael, Jason, Freddy, but the tall man, bro, he's not one to be messed with, for real.
He's very underappreciated.
Dude's picking up coffins all by him damn self. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. This dude's crazy.
And he can't die.
Exactly, dude, there's hundreds of them,
Yeah.
It's a good one, man. It's about the unknown of death, about what we don't know, and it's got a lot of shit that resonates if you look at it deep down. Like I wish I could see, kind of, if we could get Don Coscarelli on this thing, that'd been so cool to just pick his brain like through and through about this series, because that's I'd like to know more about, what he was thinking when he was doing this. I know a lot of it is about death and trying to scare people and stuff, but man, there's just something about this series that it's nothing like anything I've ever seen. And that's why I think it's so iconic and so atmospheric and just so well done. This first one had no money with it, and it's just, it looks better than all the other ones, besides the practical effects in the second one, which we'll talk about, because they got more money. This one is still so well done. So with the money, they used every dollar, the right way. It was not wasted. Exactly.
Yeah, it looks absolutely amazing, and its effect is magnificent, because it totally evokes the feeling and the contemplation that it's wanting to evoke out of the audience, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about the first one?
I think the first one's probably the best one. It's the most focused one, I think, because it's pretty much a straight horror movie. They didn't really go into the action stuff as much. but so it's like it's just this very atmospheric kind of weird, creepy horror movie. It's more about it's less about in your face jump scares and stuff like that. More about it's more like a psychological scare,
Yeah.
which always works better for me, really, because I'm not so big on jump scares. It's kind of like just like getting an instinctive reaction out of you. It doesn't make you really feel anything. It's more kind of an artificial scare. But movies like like this one that kind of get more cerebral, I guess, really I think work better.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I think we all agree that this is the best one, by far, and it's one of the reasons is because it does have a very cerebral, moody, like tone to it. Like it's a contemplation on mortality and death and grief. The tall man is the personification of death. He could basically just be the Grim Reaper or the doofy death from the Bill and Ted films. It could just be him. And the point would still get across, but not quite as well.
This is after the breakup with Wild Stallions.
Yeah, right. So he's got to take it up. But just the idea that it's taking place mostly around this like funeral parlor and this mausoleum. And it's a very unnerving and obviously morbid setting and macabre. And it works so well. And it's the first one. I remember the first time I watched it being so confused by it. And I remember loving too, because it actually took it in a direction that was more understandable and more road movie, and a direct inspiration to Supernatural. And we're about to get into that. But before we do, let's talk one more round about Phantasm, the first film. What would you give it out of 5 possible you digs, Jelani? And you out there in the chat, let us know as well. As we should also say this. One of the best characters in the entire franchise is the Himikuda as well.
The Himikuda.
Yeah, that's a movie car I would like to have. That for the hell of it. What about you, Jelani? Though, out of 5 possible you digs, and you in the chat, join out, join out. Who joins out anyway? What do you give Phantasm?
All right, it's a decent film. It's good. It's got a great feel to it. I like the music. I love Angus Scrim as the tall man. Reggie has his moments, and he felt out of place, but he gets better as it goes on. I'm gonna watch it again, but to me, like I said, this isn't really my horror. This isn't what scares me or frightens me all the time. So, it's a good film. So I'm going to give it a 4 for me. This is just me, but I'm going to give it a 4.
No shit, Jelani. Why do you got to do all this setup, man?
I do, man. I love the movie. I love it. I give it a 4.
4 is a good story. Yeah, that's a good one. What about you, Dylan? Out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Phantasm?
Give it a 5. Yeah,
so casually with the perfect score.
Casual.
I wouldn't have a couple years ago. Well, no, I would have. I kind of used to like the second one better, like what you said. But it's one of those movies where it gets better every time, because at first when I watched this years ago, you kind of don't understand it. You're like, damn, the spear is cool. The tall man's cool and creepy. It's got awesome stuff going for it. But I kind of couldn't look past sometimes Michael Baldwin being a little annoying. But still, he's a
kid. He's a kid in the film.
The tall man's gonna get me, Jody. He's gonna get me.
See, though, Dylan, there's plenty of kids though that don't annoy me in movies. I don't hate kids like you, bro.
Monster Squad is a perfect example of kids I love in film.
Sandlot.
Sandlot is another one. Great. There are exceptions.
All the Sandlot is the Monster Squad with baseball.
But pretty much.
He doesn't annoy me the entire thing. It's just.
But kids in general in films are trash. They are all trash. They ruin films just by their presence.
Hey,
even I have moments with Home Alone where I'm just like, ugh.
Hey, that's
not really. I don't. We'll talk about it later.
All right, but a perfect score from Dylan.
I know.
5 digs from Dylan. What about you, Brooks?
Stealing my show, man.
Out of 5 possible digs, Brooks, what do you give Phantasm?
I give it a 5 too. This I just really like this movie. You know, just I guess kind of the atmosphere of it, and you know, I think it was effectively, you know, kind of disturbed me a bit, which is not really that easy to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, like mission accomplished. So 4.5 stars.
5 you digs. Okay, nice. I'm going right there with Jelani. I mean, with Dylan and Brooks, I should say. 5 you digs for me. This is like a perfect horror film. This is exactly my kind of horror. It's cerebral. It's atmospheric. It's surreal. It's nightmarish. It doesn't make sense. It has you guessing. It's something you can think about and literally study. I freaking love it. So 4, 5, 5, and 5 for a PCP average of 4.77899999694999. I think. Let's look out in the chat. We'll see here. Easy Reader says 3.5 you digs for me. Kirby says I give the first Phantasm 5 floating spheres. That's a good bit. We should have used that one.
Yeah.
JB says I really have to watch it again. That's understandable. The more you watch it, the more like Dylan said, I think the more you get into it.
Yeah.
Fable says 4 you digs. The tall man, Reggie, and the spheres are iconic. Even though Mike's voice is annoying, he's a pretty capable kid.
Okay, Fable. I'll give you some of that.
Fair enough.
You get some of that.
Ew.
He's still a kid in film.
Robbie, what are we gonna do? They're gonna get me.
All right, let's move along. So Coscarelli felt like Phantasm was it. That was done. Like the tall man wins, and there you go. And then he went on and he made Beastmaster, which let's be honest, great fucking film.
I love Beastmaster.
And but Beastmaster didn't make
Robbins.
Yeah, Beastmaster didn't really make as much money as they wanted it to, and then he was and then he was able to work out a deal for Phantasm II. And people had always wanted him to do a Phantasm, and he didn't really want to do that, right? Then he just said, let's do it. And he was like, how do I start it? And he was like, well, it should literally start at the end of the last one. So that's what he does. And I love the film. However, they do have to replace Michael. They replace him with James LeGros. And he is actually probably a better actor than A. Michael Baldwin. But it is weird when you watch the franchise and all of a sudden it's a completely different guy. It's so jarring.
At least it's a time jump, though. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, at least
it explains why he looks different.
Yeah, LeGros, right? Yeah, James LeGros. And
Mervyn.
Because it's a studio film, they have to make it less surreal, more understandable. So therefore, it hits this kind of road vibe. They're hunting down the tall man. The tall man's going from town to town doing this. And we didn't even really mention this because it doesn't really matter that much in the first film for its effect. But in the second film, it's very driven by the narrative of the story. But the tall man's going around and just fucking taking dead bodies, shrinking them down in these weird like Jawa dudes and making them their minions and sending them to this other dimension to be slaves. And then you find out even more crazy cracked out stuff that happens as the series progresses. So now they're hunting down the tall man and it becomes this road film. They got the car, they got the weapons, they're iconic weapons, the 4-barreled shotgun. Mike's got his flamethrower. He's got this psychic connection with this girl because, you know, you can tell that that's a studio force to have the love story there because as soon as the studio's no longer a factor in the third one, they immediately just immediately.
He's killed off in the third one.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. But the second one is really where Reggie shines. And Reggie Bannister does such a great job in this film. Him and Mike, their camaraderie in this film is incredibly believable, even though it's a different actor. And I love it. I think it's a great road film. It is a direct inspiration to the TV series Supernatural. Imagine if instead of doing Supernatural, it was literally them just trying to chase down the tall man.
It makes total sense, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there, right? I don't know if they've ever admitted that, but I think it's true. So this movie came out in 1988. It had a $3 million budget. That was the biggest budget of any of these films. It has more explosions. It's got great special effects. The special effects are absolutely brilliant. in this film. I freaking love it. I think it's a great, solid film. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about Phantasm II overall?
I like Phantasm II. I like Phantasm II a lot. It is. I don't know how I like the action aspect of it. I like how they are going and hunting down the tall man, and how he's ripping up towns, and how I even like that weird psychic connection for no reason, because the practical effect of him like seeing that girl, and he has and like the tall man comes out of her back, out of her spine. Oh my god! It is like it throws me off so bad, because the things I remember about Phantasm as a kid, because I never watched these as a kid, but the things I remember, it basically that scene where like he comes out of her back, and I'm like, what is happening here? Is that happening? And like the flame her down, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the reason. And I would read like Fangoria magazine and see like scenes of that, and be like, nope, not watching that movie. Nope. Looks too gross. But as I watched it as an adult, it's a lot better. It holds up, and it's clean. I just really enjoy it. I really think that the series, I think that the story was introduced in Phantasm. It gives you that nightmarish feel, and they could have ended it with Phantasm, but somehow Phantasm 2 expands on the lore. It starts it off. It makes a psychic connection. The reason why Mike is so important or so integral to what the tall man is trying to do, even though technically throughout the series you get that he's important, but you don't know why he would be important,
and you never really fully find out
why he's important. And I'm like, why did you do that? But the fact that it's there, I like that it's there, and the Liz character, and it's just little things like that. But overall, I mean, the music's still great. It's still, I like the 4-barrel shotgun. There are parts in it where I'm just like, you should be using a more practical weapon. Like you need a good secondary weapon, because after you blast that thing, that's one use.
Yeah, that's also that's a lot of ammunition gone.
That's like what if you miss? And all you got is you're holding this gun, and that's it.
It's not quite Ash's chainsaw hand, but it is up there as far as I think iconic movie. I love it. I think it's great, dude. And they literally made that thing like,
and how he
took 2 shotguns and put them together. Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But
what do you think about what do you think about alchemy in the film? You can forget her, because this is when we first so we get introduced to the idea that Reggie has a wife and kids now, right? And they get blown up. Right? They get killed. We never meet them. From this point forward, he's on the road. The closest he ever gets to actual real action is with Alchemy, who is a tall man minion, I guess, but like that's a really fun sex scene. What's going on there? It's so ridiculous. He's just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Why are you coming at me like this? And I was thinking it would turn into the tall man. I really thought she'd turn into the tall man.
She could be in some reality, some dimension. She is. All right. What about you, Dylan? What do you think about Phantasm II?
It's actually used to be probably my favorite, and but I told you I like that Phantasm kind of gets better with age and the more you watch it. But I've always loved the second Phantasm. I actually always liked, what was it, James, whatever his name was, the guy who replaced him. I always thought he was like a great.
Yeah. He was in some Law and Order.
It always reminded me kind of like Friday Part 5, where they changed Tommy from Feldman to that other Tommy character who's all crazy, because I always liked him in Part 5.
They had like 3 Tommies, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different person each movie.
It was each movie? Okay.
Yep. But I love this one, man. I love the practical effects. Like I said, the one thing I wish they did was add a little bit more of that awesome score. But I still think it's a phenomenal movie, man. It's a road movie. It's more of an action movie, but you get the sense that they're on the run almost, but they're not. I mean, when they're breaking into that store late at night for weapons and everything, small thing. They leave the money.
Scene. That's a great scene.
They're robbing the register, but no, they're leaving the money. They're not criminals. They're just on a mission. You know what I'm saying? And they have to be low key. You know what I'm saying? They can't be doing this out in the daylight. But I love it, man. I love both of these guys, and they still have that chemistry, even though Michael Baldwin isn't, in the second one, but I still think it works. The love stuff, the little love affair is that's probably the weakest part for me, but
their telepathic connection.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They filmed this whole telepathic love scene where they were making love in their minds, across different, they were on the beach, then they're in the desert, then they're something like that. They cut it out, but thankfully.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for small favors, man. And I think they do a great job. The practical effects are amazing. I think one of the guys who headed it up is the guy who did the Evil Dead 2 one. And when the tall man gets all that yellow shit and it's actually hydrochloric acid. I love how Reggie's we're going to do something with this. I know this is going to become useful. That's a great practical effect right there. Phantasm 2 is filled with great practical effects. Speaking of our best practical effect here at PCP, it's the puppet that we made, and that's Brooks, the animatronic puppet that what's up? What do you think of Phantasm 2, homie?
I like Phantasm 2. Not as much as the first one, because it does. You can tell, that they're having to, kind of switch gears a little bit in this one, make it a little less, cerebral, I guess, than the first one. Because it was more like a straightforward, they mixed some of the action stuff in there with them, hitting the road, hunting the tall man. They get the montage where they get their weapons and they make the gun and he makes the flamethrower and all that. But I mean, it's still fun, and I like it, and it still does have that Phantasm vibe to it. But it feels like it's kind of been diluted just a little bit.
Yeah, I see that Fable out there says Phantasm 2 was my first Phantasm, so it has a special place in my heart. This was a lot of people's introduction to Phantasm, because even though it didn't necessarily do so well at theaters, it did really well in the video market. Right, and people were watching it, and a lot of people. This was the first one, and one of the things that Phantasm 2 does so well is it makes the story accessible to more people because it's an easier to follow story and plot by taking it on the road and making it a thing that it's not just happening to this one kid and it may be all in his head, but it's literally happening. There's even a moment, it's very direct, and a guy pointed it out on Cinemassacre's review of it a few years ago. And he's literally in the movie at one point, the girl looks over at Mike and says, "Don't worry, it's just a dream." And then Angus Scrimm's tall man shows up and goes, "No, it's not." Just to kind of reaffirm the idea that, no, this is real. And I remember loving, that's what I loved about Phantasm 2 when I first watched it. It was oh, it is real. And this is a thing that's happening. It's not just in his head. It's not just this fiction. Oh, man, I really like this idea. And I love it. And it, like I said, it really establishes Reggie as a character and kind of what the series should have continued to be. And it starts getting broken up. But Phantasm 2 to me is pretty solid. So, Jelani, out of 5 possible digs, you gave Phantasm 4. What do you give Phantasm 2? And you out there in the chat, let us know. What do you rate Phantasm 2?
This is weird for me because I'm going to give it a 4. Okay. It's on par. It's on par with the first one because it's consistently it's the sequel, and the sequel. I think they're trying to go for bigger and better for this one, and I mean they achieved some of that goal. It's watered down, yes, but it is still like a weird action road movie. It's got its elements, and I like how it turns out. I like the ending for it, especially. It's just amazing.
Oh, they all have horrible endings, don't they? They have great endings in which horrible things happen to the characters.
Horrible things happen to the characters. You're not supposed to beat this man. That's basically the goal of all of these. He's going to win. And I don't know why you're trying to fight him in the first place. I just left it alone because apparently he hasn't hit the large cities yet. So
I'm curious is how he was doing all this.
On the nose.
Apparently, he's going from town to town and just wiping them out and leaving them as ghost towns. Like,
yeah, and no one notices.
Never come up to him and like the police come up and like, "Hey, dude," he's like, "Boy."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh well, we gotta let him kill us all, man.
We've got to go. We've got to be these little balls."
Sorry, guys, but, he said the thing.
Yeah. So another solid rating from Jelani. Dylan, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Phantasm 2?
4.5. It's not a perfect movie because of the love scenario stuff, but it still is a great movie, and we're not going down that hill yet, but it's still a fun ass installment, and I definitely, if I'm watching the first one, most likely I'll probably be throwing in at least for a double feature, and this is the hardest one to get too, man. Like, you can't get it on Blu-ray for like less than 50, or it's crazy how much the Shout Factory copy of this is, man. Like, at one point it was like 100 plus, and recently I saw it go down a little bit, but it's a great installment. It seems to be the fan favorite to a lot of people. I still like the first one a little bit more, but yeah, 4.5.
All right. What about you, Brooks?
I give this one 4. Like, it's still good, but it's not as good, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But it does lead into like some more interesting things. I think like it's a good setup for future stories concerning these characters.
Yeah. Okay, I thought you had more, but yeah, no, 100% there. I'm going to agree with Jelani and Brooks and say 4. I give it 4 you digs. I really like it. I think it's a good, solid, as somebody in the chat just said, worthy sequel to Phantasm. It streamlines the story. It makes it more accessible. It pumps up the action. It's got massive explosions. It's a good-looking film. It's got great practical effects. Angus Scrimm's brilliant. Reggie Bannister's even better in this film. The kid that plays Michael LaGrosse is great. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. And the one nitpick I do is that it's not as surreal or atmospheric as the first one. And the love story thing kind of knocks it down just a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to give it a solid 4. So 4, 4, 4, and a 4.5 for a PCP average of 4.199733478. Let's look out there in the chat.
We really don't do math.
Mikey says, Phantasm 2 is fun, but to me, even with the bigger budget, it has the least heart/family vibe of the entire series. 4. Wow, okay. I can see that. Reefer Man Review says 10 out of 10, which we would somehow reduce to 5 you digs, but hell yeah, I like that. Mikey says 4 and 5 are ultimately very low budget, but better than 2. 3 you digs, and this is my favorite film series.
Wow.
See, bro, okay. I don't know what some people love the 4th one, man.
Fable says, I'm with you, Jab. 4 you digs, in retrospect, not as good as 1, but a worthy sequel. And Kirby says, I give part 2 a 4. So hell yeah, there we go. Now let's talk about 1994. So they still had a budget for this one. The budget went from $3 million to $2.5 million. So Universal, I think, was still initially involved in this, and then it just went direct to video or something like that. So I think they eventually passed on or something. But anyway, they had budget for this one a little bit more, and you can tell in the film. So it came out in 1994. 6 years later? It sees the return of Michael Baldwin back as Mike. It obviously has Reggie and Angus Scrimm back. It, to me, starts introducing some really cool, far-out ideas to the mythology of Phantasm. The idea now that what they do is they take the brains of these dead people and they miniaturize them, and then they use the brains in their spheres to it's biomechanical. I think that's wild. I think that's such a freaking cool idea. And then you find out that Jody's brain's in one and he becomes a good, and I thought for the rest of the series, they'd have this fucking sphere with them. But they didn't. But I used to always say that Phantasm 3 was the weakest of the series. And this was before I had seen 5, obviously, but in retrospect, on my revisit, I really rather like Phantasm III Lord of the Dead. It introduces some really cool concepts. Angus Scrimm has such a great role in this film in particular. Reggie's funny. I love the fucking kid who literally kills 3 fucking people, like the first thing that we ever see, with like a frisbee with fucking razor blades on it and shit. Like this fucking Rambo MacGyver kid. I love that kid. Rocky is awesome. At first, I thought she was kind of a cheesy character to add, but I don't know. I kind of like that vibe that they have on the road together. I like 3. I think 3 is pretty solid. I think it's okay. It's not as good as 2. It's definitely not as good as 1, but it's got fun moments. It's got some decent effects in it again as well. I think the effects kind of hold up in this one. And I forgot to mention the preacher in part 2. I love the preacher in part 2. But this one, and what's the one where we first see the first gold ball? Was that 2 or was that 3?
I think that's 2.
That's
2.
2. Okay.
2 was the gold ball?
We get a gold ball in one of them, then we get another gold ball in another one. And another point, we find out that the gold ball is actually the tall man. Yeah. Remember that thing?
Is that 3 then?
Is that in this one? I don't remember. They kind of start blurring together like it's one fucking dream or something. But I like 3. I think it's pretty solid. I think it's got a solid end. I actually, when you watch it, I don't think Michael Baldwin's performance is that great, but I also don't think that they gave Mike much to do in part 3. But then they add in the idea that he's got a ball in his head. They never really kind of get back to that. But overall, I do like 3. Jelani, what do you think about Phantasm 3?
I hate this film, but not as bad as I normally would. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. It's too much going on. Now, Rocky is awesome in this film, but you probably know why I don't like this film. Do you know why I don't like this film, right? Everyone should know.
There's a child in it.
There you go. There you go.
He's better than Michael in the first one, though. He's badass.
I can't stand that kid. I don't know why about that kid. And I'm sorry, I'm stepping on y'all, man, but I can't look. All the things that you said about Rocky, I can't stand. I can't believe that kid's a master marksman that's throwing razor blade frisbees at 3 cartoonish villains. They were the most
pretty dumb.
They're pretty 90s cartoony. And I'm like, oh man, and this has Home Alone. I do like the body thing that came down with all the knives that was in the house that missed. That should have landed. That should have landed. And how's that girl gonna get run over by a car and then still come back? It was just, some stuff was just ridiculous. And I'm like, okay. And then, like, was this the one where the cop was in it and like Reggie had the blood like fall in his mouth, or was that 4?
That's 4 with the cop.
Okay, yeah, but it's just a lot of over the top things. I go back to Rocky being what my favorite character in this film, and that beats Angus Scrimm at parts, because Angus Scrimm was kind of there, and you do find out what's going on.
There's that great moment though where he's like sitting in that office with all those candles, and he's just holding the ball, and they just pan up to him. Oh my god, that's one of my favorite shots.
It's so weird, and I don't know what it is, man. But I just don't like this film. I got you. I'm sorry. This is me.
Dude,
I cannot
apologize.
dig it. I can't dig it at all. I want to. And it's, oh god, it's just that damn kid. That damn and he gets got, and you never see him again because he got.
Yeah, he got.
He didn't get mic'd. Mike didn't. At least Reggie had the chance to save him, but he got, and it was over. So
he never came back for that kid.
He never came back from that. And I was like,
I thought they should have had the kid in Ravager. I thought that would have been cool.
Yeah, I thought the kid
but instead we get
Chunk.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. We get Chunk, and we'll talk about that. Dylan, what do you think about Phantasm 3?
I like it. I never had a problem with it, honestly. It's not as good as the first 2, but I still think it leaves off exactly where the second one ends. Yep. It cuts out the girl. which is a plus for me. You know, like I don't need it. I don't need more of that love. Well, we didn't even talk about that where they're like laying in bed in the second one and they're just talking. He's like, your lips aren't moving. This is great. You know, like, you know, I'm like, oh my God.
It's so cheesy.
That was good to be gone, but I like this one, man. I always have, you know, I got really no complaints. I mean, the worst thing to me is the talking brother ball, you know, like that's the cheesiest thing.
I like that. I really like that.
And I hate that Mike is old. I mean, Mike's brother's old. It's just
what the hell are they supposed to do, man? Bill Thornberry. I mean, they couldn't like fucking Patrick Stewart him or nothing.
I know.
I think it's
still
cool,
like he's aged with
man.
It works with the story because the story is just crazy, you know, like it's off the wall bonkers. So it works. I like it. If I was just gonna say the one thing that you know, the talking ball is a little goofy, you know. At times, you know, I'll be like, all right, man, just show the brother, like he doesn't have to always be like be the talking ball, but I still like it, man. I think it is cool. I think once they show the miniaturized brain and you're like, oh, that is, you know, they go for it, man. It's not like he's just, you know, in the ball, you know, like they at least show they're like putting brains in the ball. You know, I love the effects with the ball and Michael when it's like, you know, coming out the side, like that shit is crazy. And yeah, man, I got no, you know, problems with this one, honestly.
He's holding the damn sphere and he opens it up and it's a brain and he's like fucking caressing it.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck is going?
I agree with you. That's one of the coolest shots of him in all three and all five of the movies, honestly.
Yeah, all five, yeah.
Like thrown with the candles and he's just, you know, holding his sphere, you know what I mean? Caressing it.
I get it.
I do that at night since I got this. You know, I just I just light the candles. And I'll just like caress it. Creamsicle gets really jealous. Speaking of making my cat jealous, Brooks, what do you think about Phantasm III, Lord of the Dead? First one with the subtitle, by the way.
Yeah. They didn't put it in the title, though. Like, it's just Phantasm 3. But this movie is pretty fun. It's a little bit of a step down, I think, but it does have a lot of things I do like. You know, I like Rocky. She's pretty cool. Like Mike is all right, you know, still got the tall man in there. It's kind of, you know, filling in some of the blanks about like, you know, what's going on. And the whole reveal of the orbs reminded me of the Doctor Who episodes, like where David Tennant first fights the Master, you know, where he takes the people from the future, their heads inside these
heads in them.
death orbs that have the things that work out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I thought, so I bet that inspired that idea in that episode.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They were,
yeah,
man, that was creepy. That was creepy in Doctor Who too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of like the creepiest Doctor Who episodes, I think. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Is this the one where you get the gold ball that has like that kills the dude in his mouth, and it's like that's such a great effect.
It comes out like, and they put him in the ice and they put him in the freezer because he hates the cold.
Yeah.
And his face, and it comes out of his face.
Yeah, and think about this. Like, so they get back to the idea that he hates cold in part 3, right? They get back to that idea because he remembers, oh, yeah, that's right. This was set up in the first film. Because was that not intentional in that first film? That when, like, because when he opens up the ice cream thing and the tall man just goes, like, when you first watch that film, you're like, that was just a moment to make him look creepy. And I love that he's just like relishing in it. But then it's like, no, it's the cold. But they don't get back to that for like 3 movies. This movie sometimes I think frustrates people that watch the series because not every question gets answered. Like, and some things kind of get forgotten about and some things just happen. But I think that it's literally supposed to be one of the things about this series. And I think that's why we'll have an interesting discussion about the next 2 films. But before we do that, what out of 5 possible you digs do you give Phantasm 3? And you out there in the chat, join in on the conversation. Jelani, what do you give Phantasm 3? I bet it's low.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, I'll be nice. I'll be nice. I'm gonna give this one a 3. I'll give this one a 3 because there are others. And it's not as terrible as we are about to see, but I like Rocky. Angus Scrimm is decent in this film. But I can't stand that kid. I'm sorry, Rocky. That kid. That kid's gotta go.
Kid's Tim, right?
Tim. I mean, not Rocky. I mean, Tim. I can't stand that kid. I'm just mad that where'd he get the gun? Why is he
so much?
He's a kid. He's a children.
You can't hate him just because he's a kid. If he's a good actor,
and I was glad he died. Glad he died.
I like the characters I don't like in this film are those three.
The three goons.
The three goons. Yeah. I would rather have had dwarves or the grave diggers or the dudes with the gas.
He couldn't afford the little people anymore or something. So he's just like, we'll make them zombies. Yeah. And it was just like, well, not only will make them zombies, that's why it was a stretch. I was like, you couldn't find any little people to do the dwarf thing anymore. Like, it got weird.
This is the one where they introduced the undead, like can walk, he kind of he's bringing the corpses back to life for like as his minions instead of the minions, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
because that's the process. You're right. There is an escalation to the army that he's building. He's building a movie, an army throughout all these films.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea that he introduced the zombie thing. It's just they keep coming back instead of actually utilizing some of the other goons that already exist in the Phantasm.
And it just didn't gel well with me.
But I love it when that kid kills him. I love it when that kid kills him.
There's that X, threw that X and it missed that one dude and hit her in the head. I mean, that was clean, but it's still Home Alone. I get mad at that. I was like, it's so Home Alone-y to me. Well, I'm sorry.
Where the tall man catches the orb and crushes it in his hand? Or was that 2?
I don't remember.
2.
I think that's 2.
They all merged together. I think that's 2.
They Dylan, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Phantasm 3?
It's close. I'm trying to think between 3, 5, and 4. So I really do enjoy this one. I'm gonna go give it a 4 since I gave 5, 4.5, and then I'll give this one a 4. So I do really enjoy it. I can watch. Like I said, I will go back from a double feature, but I've never had a problem with it. I like from watching it always. I've always had fun with it. It's we get a lot more of Reggie. Him and he's lost his son and his family in the second one, and it's kind of nice to see him have that little bond with the kid, even though it's only for one movie. It's still nice. You get good character development in Reggie with him and that kid. So I like it, man. I have fun with it. So 4.
Oh yeah, very respectable. Nice points too. What about you, Brooks?
I'd give this one a 3.5. It's better than average, but like as far as like the franchise goes, it's definitely starting to take a little bit of a downward slope, I think.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty damn enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with you, Brooks, and say 3.5. I think I'm interested to see if we start differentiating our scores, but so far we've been right along the same way. At 3.5, I think it's a solid film, better than average, but definitely not 1 and definitely not 2. It's got great practical effects still. It's got some interesting characters. I love those points that Dylan made about Reggie kind of rebuilding his family. He does get a little too cringy, though, with his lusting after Rocky. It gets to be a bit too much at times, but it is a goofy moment when he's having his wet dream and Jody shows up and then he's like kind of busy here, man. It's a little goofy.
I was kind of glad that Rocky was a lesbian, actually.
What's that?
I always thought it was implied that Rocky was like a lesbian.
It's a possibility.
When you first see her, she's with that other chick.
Yeah.
She's like,
she doesn't seem too broken up.
She doesn't care about it. Yeah. She's dead.
She's always blowing him off. I'm kind of like, man, Reggie, you're not getting the hint here.
It's hard out on the road on your own. The kid can sleep in the car. They only had one bed. What a sleazy guy. That's another great scene. Is then when he goes to get the hotel room and the guy that runs that hotel just gives a great performance in that little bit there. So 3.5, 3.5, 3.0, 4.0 for a PCP average of 3.69666666969 69, dudes. All right, let's look at the chat. Mikey says, this is a solid 4. Rocky's amazing. They really should have pushed the lore in this baby. Yes, they did. And they really set up some good stuff.
They kind of did. They kind of, I mean, I will give it that.
JB says, Children of the Corn has a good cast of kids. You're right.
Yeah.
And The Omen, that kid was good. You're right.
Yeah.
Fable says 3.5, you digs. I remember being so excited for this movie, then disappointed. Better on rewatch. And Kirby says it gets a 3.5 from me. All right. Seems like we're all starting to wane our interest in the Phantasm franchise. Now, first movie had like $300,000. Second movie had $3 million. The third one had $2.5 million. The fourth one, Coscarelli could not get this one funded whatsoever. And this is going to be something that now plagues this franchise. This movie only had a $650,000 budget. Okay. One of the things, first of all,
and it shows.
The guy who co-wrote, I think, Pulp Fiction with Tarantino came up with an idea called Phantasm 1999 AD, in which the tall man has now successfully taken over most of the world, and it's an apocalyptic scenario. Okay. And then Coscarelli had his own version of it too, and it was kind of the same thing. Like the idea was now they wanted to really push out the apocalyptic nature of what the story was going to become, right? Because we've already been seeing this escalation of the tall man and his forces, right? So now we're about to start hitting the big cities. But he could only raise $650,000. This is one of the things that's crazy to me, is so many of these people that we've been talking about their works so far this year, George Romero, and Don Coscarelli in particular, have so much trouble funding these things. And it seems, this one came out in 98, and it's a different thing, but we'll get more to this on Ravager. But it seems weird to me that Ravager had such a slim budget. Phantasm IV had no budget, so they're right back to what they were trying to do. Don Coscarelli has like an hour and a half of footage that was cut out of Phantasm, so we decided to use some scenes from the original Phantasm, and I think they used 10 minutes of it out of an hour and a half, and that helped the budgetary restraints. He was able to get K&B Studios to kind of do the work almost for near nothing because they were just friends of his and big fans of the franchise. And it starts to address some things, but really what this movie to me is it's all set up. This movie is just setting up something bigger to come. It's like he has this big, crazy, epic idea about this apocalyptic vision of the future of the tall man and these spheres everywhere, right? And he doesn't have the money to get there, so he's just going to do a more cerebral piece. So this movie does get back to the cerebral and surreal nature of the first one. It kind of leaves the road thing. But I think in doing so, it kind of loses some of the appeal of that the franchise had built as a franchise, not just as a solid film. So while it does go back to the nature and atmospheric tone of the first one at times, it loses everything that was built up as far as the camaraderie of the previous two films. You separate Reggie and Michael in this film. And Michael's just on this journey of self-discovery, and they never really reveal anything. It's got a very crazy, sad, down ending in which Michael appears to die, and Reggie jumps into this other dimension. And then that's all we had for literally 17, 18 years, right? So it's a weird one. It's an odd ending. I always thought this film was interesting. I like the usage of the old footage. I think it adds a haunting nature to this film. I really think so. So I do like it a bit. I like what it's trying to explore thematically. But this is a really dully paced movie. It drags and it never picks up the pace. It's got some shining moments, like with the cop, and it's got some moments like in the hospital room, with the woman who has the fucking sphere come out of her head. That's great. But for the most part, it's kind of them walking around in a fucking desert, not really doing anything because they just had no money. What do you think about Phantasm IV Oblivion overall, Jelani?
It's all right. It's forgettable to me, though. That's what I hate about it. It is bland. It's kind of forgettable to me. And as like I said, each movie, it's like the reverse Mission Impossible, where each one is diminished as opposed to getting better over time. They just kind of diminish, and it is kind of boring. I don't like Mike in this movie. for some reason. Like, he's dead. From three, he's pretty much like kind of dead. Like, the thing came out of his head, and I'm like, oh, he's dead, and that's it. But he's still alive. But the sphere's out of his head. But now he's on this journey, and he doesn't know why he has yellow coming out of him.
The sphere comes out of his head in this one.
And this one, that's what I meant.
And the last one, he finds out that there's
there's a sphere in his head.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it comes out in this one, and he's still not dead, and it's weird, and it's just like Scrim. I mean, not Scrim. The tall man wants him, but they for a purpose, but he doesn't tell you what the purpose is.
They even allude to the idea that Michael was like a reincarnation or something of somebody else, because they revealed the tall man's past. They revealed at least the story of Jebediah Morningside. And he was the first one to go there, but like when he comes back, it's not him.
It's the tall man, and you don't know if it's an alien that came back or something changed Jebediah when he came in. I would like to explore, if you're gonna do that origin story like that, I would have explored it more. I would have actually had Mike talk to him and gain a relationship with Jebediah and try to figure out what this is. You know what I'm saying? I thought that's where it was going, because he was offering him lemonade. He was like, "Hey, would you like some lemonade?" And I thought that was going to be where we get to find out why this happens or what this is. And you don't really get that. You don't get that in this film, and you're expecting it. And you're like, oh, yeah. And
one thing this movie definitely does, though, is it does set up the anticipation that you are going to get the answers in this next definitive final film, right? It really does, because this is a setup picture. And some people say that they could. A lot of people love this film. It's really stick up for it. And I like it to a point, but it's dull to get through, especially when you watch them all together as a series, and it just it really drags in its pace. It does do some interesting stuff. Some of it's forgettable.
It's there.
Some of it. What about you, Dylan? What do you think about Phantasm 4?
It's a little dull. It starts going downhill for sure for me. I notice it seems like a lot of people do like 4, but I mean, there's good things in it. Reggie, obviously. I like him Reggie fighting that zombie cop or undead cop. That's a good part.
That's a good part.
What about the titty spheres? Do you like that scene?
Yeah.
My favorite thing about that is when he goes to the bed and he sees her chest moving, and he just goes far out.
It does that. Oh yeah. And about going back to the titty spheres real quick. How did they get in her? How did they get in there? Did they kill her then? Or were they always there? Or was this a dream and they happened? See?
It was a phantasm.
She just could have been naked, and I've been okay with that. But no.
I like the breast spheres. I think it's a fun gag. I think it's goofy.
It's like the movie's playing with their expectations. Like, about to see some titties. Oh no!
Oh no!
What a horrible murder!
What a horrible tale.
One thing I noticed at the end of it, though, that I never noticed before, probably because I'd never watched the 5th. I'd watched all 4 for so many years, and the 5th one is the newest one. That came out in 2016 or something.
Yeah.
But he said, the tall man says to Reggie, when they're the final showdown or whatever, and he looks at Reggie and he's like, the ice cream man. He's like, everything, nothing is real to you or something. He said or this is all a dream or something to you. And that kind of I was like, man, like you said, it's kind of a setup for 5. And I was like, I guess maybe Coscarelli maybe planned for what he did with Reggie in 5, maybe in 4. That was the setup, because it's just a little nod where he just says, where he's like, oh, the ice cream man, but everything's a dream to you. And none of this is real to you or something. Basically setting it up for 5. I don't, maybe not. Maybe I was just looking into it too much, but. If I don't know, do you remember the line I'm talking about at the end?
Yeah, that's a good pickup, man. 100%. I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, because I hadn't seen it. Yeah, I hadn't seen Ravager before. When I revisited.
I forgot. This is your first time seeing Ravager. See, I had seen it in 2018 2018 or something, 2017. I saw it because I binged them all whenever I got like a few, or whenever I got the first one, I binged all 5. Whenever I got that Blu-ray, the first one, but I can't remember. That might have been 2017. It might have been the year it came out. Ravager came out, or
It doesn't matter, Dylan.
I don't know
You
why.
saw it.
I'm sick,
You
bro.
saw
I'm
it.
sick. Go ahead, Brooks. I ain't got nothing else to say about it.
Well, damn, man.
It's not. It's good.
Well, no, that's a good pickup, man. It's all set up. You know, I do like that.
Yeah.
Some reason randomly Reggie decides to put on this like fucking 30-year-old ice cream man suit.
He just has it sitting in his
Tall
car.
man's got a great line too when he's like doing his experiments on Michael and he's like, "This won't hurt." Well, it hurt a little bit. I like that bit right there. Brooks, what do you think about Phantasm IV Oblivion? And I do think it's kind of clever that Oblivion's got an I and a V.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then Ravager's got the V.
that's the
Yeah.
V.
Yeah, I think this movie was all right. It is a lot of filler, but it does have some interesting stuff in it. Like, I don't think this movie would stand alone. Like, if you just showed somebody like who'd never seen any other Phantasm this movie, like they wouldn't know what the fuck to make of it.
They'd be like, they made this movie over 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But,
like
I mean,
3 and 4
it
are
does
supposed to
have
be
some
like
of
right
that
after each
Phantasm
other.
magic to it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's overall, I'd say it's probably the most average of them.
Yeah, it's trying to say some things, but and then when you know the story behind it, you just know that they just could not get any money for this film, and that was going to be a problem. And he wanted to do a 5th film. He wanted to reach this big apocalyptic vision. And I actually, honestly, sometimes when you watch Coscarelli talk about this stuff, and he's had other moderate successes. You know, he did Bubba Hotep. He did John Dies at the End. He did a great, one of my favorite episodes of Masters of Horror, which is Incident on and Off Mountain Road, which has Angus Scrim in it. He did that survival whatever movie with Lance Hendrickson, but I've never seen that. And I love Beastmaster. But you always get the idea that it saddens him, especially for a series that Coscarelli never really wanted to do any sequels. You just feel hurt that nobody ever trusted him enough to like deliver on the promise of what Phantasm wanted to grow into. So let's get to the ratings here. And you out there in the chat, let us know out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Phantasm IV Oblivion? What about you, Jelani?
This one, like I said, it's forgettable to me. Like, I'll never watch this one again. I'll give this one like, this will get a 2.5. This gets 2.5. It's not. I'm trying to be generous. I'm not trying to be too mean. It's just, you know, it is filler. The best parts are like, when Reggie puts on the ice cream man suit at the end, and when Mike, like, even though this movie was supposed to be like days after or weeks after the 3rd one, Mike is like, he's gotten older and you can tell like his hair is not even getting it's a little loose at the front, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, this isn't Days Later. So it has its moments, so I'll give it a 2.5. I mean, it's not Ravager, so here we go. I feel bad that he didn't get a chance to get enough money to make his vision, to make what he wanted, because I understand what he was trying to do. For watching these films, I see that there is a progression, and he wanted to make the progression in an apocalyptic feel, and you do get it, and I do get that the story has been put there, but it's just not told well. I wish it was told a little better. And if it was, I would be all for this. I give it way more stars. I would defend it, but it's not told well. I mean, he's giving us the meat, but it's not in the chunk. It's not seasoned, I should say. So
I got you. Yeah, and I also think that this movie kind of diminishes, even if you do like it a little bit. Anything you do maybe enjoy in this film can almost be diminished after watching Ravager. Just because the lead-in doesn't lead to much to some people, but we'll get into that. Dylan, out of 5 possible digs, what do you give Phantasm 4?
It's another hard one, man. It's like either 2.5 or a 3. I can't really. I think I'd go 2.5.
Do it. Be bold, man.
Yeah, 2.5. Because I feel like I really don't know if I could live without watching it again. And yeah, I love the first 3 though. But
Okay.
4 and 5.
4 doesn't do it.
2.5.
Boring, dull.
Reggie's the best part, and we get some decent Angus Scrim, but not enough. It's just not really good. It's almost like you get more Jebediah stuff in this one, And
well, I like some of that though.
I want to know about Jebediah. That's the worst part.
You think you're gonna find out what it is, and then you don't, and then you're it kind of bums you out because you're like, it's just totally left unopened, So
yeah,
they don't even try, and the worst part is they're not even trying to. It looks like they're not even trying to tell me that story. Yeah. You're not telling it. You want to tell me, but you're not telling me.
It's like if they left it alone, I wouldn't be mad at it. But they like totally set you up like they're gonna like, oh my god, we're about to find out what how he became the tall man or something. Mm-hmm. And then nothing. Come on.
You're robbed. You're freaking robbed.
I do wish that Coscarelli. It sucks because I wish he could have got the money, and we could have seen his full vision. I wish somebody would have trusted him because I think if he got to do his vision, maybe we would have got to see something better. But I'm glad it got some practical effects in it at least. We can't say that about 5. So.
All right, Brooks. What about you? What do you give Phantasm 4 out of 5 possible you digs?
I did this one a 3. It's like I said, it's a pretty average movie. Like if it weren't for the previous 3 movies, I probably wouldn't care much about it. And considering it does have progression of the characters, and like it has bits of story, kind of necessary. It is like if you're interested in the story of the whole, then it's necessary, but otherwise not really so much.
Yeah,
I usually skip this one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm right there with you, Brooks. We're agreeing so far. I'm 3 you digs. It's if it wasn't part of the Phantasm series, it wouldn't get 3. It'd probably get lower. But I have an attachment to these characters. I have an attachment to this world. I like 4. Not so much now, knowing what it leads to. It kind of has a lot of promises that are undelivered. I think that that's okay for the series, but we were hitting a point now where there are a lot of fan expectation as to what Oblivion could have been and what it could have led to. I think it's a sad story what actually happened behind scenes where he just couldn't get the movie funded. And, at least they did have the wherewithal to strip down the story. I think that was a mistake in Ravager is that they didn't really have the money, but they didn't let that scale them down. And maybe they should have. So I like that it returns to this surreal nature, this dreamlike stream of consciousness thing. And I really think using the old footage really helps that. And I love the way it ends when it clicks back to Mike and Reggie in the ice cream truck. And he's like, did you hear something? It's just the wind. And it could have ended there because you could have been like, are they still back in 1979? And it kind of could loop back in and on around itself. And I think that could be neat. Maybe when Reggie goes through that damn thing, he goes right back to his previous life and it just loops. You could have done something interesting. And for a while, they really honestly thought that was going to be the end. Yeah. But it wasn't. So let's take a look at the chat. Mikey says, this is a 4, but watches much better when played back to back with 3. Fable says 2.5 you digs, blah. And Kirby says 2.5 for me. It's one I don't mind skipping. All right. So Ravager, Phantasm 5. So Oblivion was in 98. Ravager was released in 2016. It was first alluded to in 2006. And, there was this whole thing where he was going to get New Line was going to produce it. And then that just completely fell apart. They were actually going to even think about relaunching it and having a brand new trilogy and it's something like that, right? But it didn't happen. So what did happen is there's a cat, and his name is what? David something. It's David, the director of this film, David Hartman. So this is the only film in the franchise not directed by Don Coscarelli, though it is produced and co-written by him. So David Hartman is friends with Don Coscarelli and a huge fan of the Phantasm franchise. And he starts writing these little shorts or whatever, and he convinces Don to go out with him on the weekend and start shooting some short films. And they get Reggie involved. And I think the first one that they did was the scene of him in the cabin with the young lady. I think that was it. Like the first scene, like short that they did. So Don got the idea, and they just did it for fun. And Don got the idea that, oh, maybe we could do a few of these and we could release them as a web series. The idea was that they were maybe connected loosely, but they were just going to be little vignettes in the Phantasm world of today, right?
I get that, the way it's shot.
Yeah. As it progressed, he started thinking, well, let's film some more stuff and kind of tie it all together. They started this stuff secretly in 2012 and 2013. It was released in 2016. It was released after Angus Scrimm had passed. Sadly, he was in his 90s when they were making this one. But he did get to see the final product. So if we thought Oblivion had a low budget, which was actually double the budget of Phantasm, which is another thing that makes you think less of Oblivion, is because you had double the budget of the first film, but you still couldn't quite, but it's hard to capture that magic of a young filmmaker trying to make a raw statement about death and mortality, right? But Ravager is a very divisive film amongst Phantasm fans. First of all, if you're not a fan of the Phantasm series whatsoever, you don't watch Ravager. Don't watch Ravager. There's nothing there for you, right? This is purely made for the fans. It is made with no money. They made this on weekends over years. Angus Scrimm probably did. They probably got him in there for probably one day of shooting, probably a half an afternoon. And it's got really bad CG, where it's obviously somebody else and they've really crudely put in Angus Scrimm's head. And it looks so bad at times. Yeah, one thing I do like about it is it starts right at the end of Oblivion. It kind of picks up from that, but he just comes back. Nothing's explained. He comes back. You can tell he's been through some shit, and that's a whole thing of unexplored territory. Phantasm is a franchise, by the way, with a lot of unexplored territory that could be explored in other mediums, in other media, I think. Ultimately, here's what I think about Ravager. You got three different stories kind of going on. You got Reggie looking for Michael kind of post Oblivion and doing his thing and chasing and running from the tall man. Then you have this one about freedom fighters in this dimension where the tall man and the spheres have conquered reality, right? And then you got Reggie in a mental institution and he's suffering from dementia and he's having these dreams and these notions, and Michael's there. And Michael's like, this is all in your head. It's all fake. And the tall man's not real. There's a great scene, I think, where he's in a bed next to the tall man. And that's a great scene for me. Overall,
when it pans down and that woman's holding his arm and making him talk.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the creepiest part, man.
It is creepy. And they bring back the lady in lavender, who still looks rather lady in lavender-esque. I want to tell you guys, I'm going to be straight up with you. I like the film. I do. I actually like the ending of the film. I found it to be very sad and tragic and very poignant. And based on what I think the series is about and what that first film is actually about, what it's trying to say, and we'll be getting to that soon, I think it's a very appropriate finale. But at the same time, leaving some stuff open to really go balls to the wall and do something crazy and apocalyptic with it. However, we just got to understand, we're never going to be able to see what we want out of Phantasm's finale realized on screen. We're never going to see that in our lifetimes. First of all, Angus Scrimm has passed. I don't think you can do one without him. And Reggie's getting up there as well. So, but I will say this, though. I like what they were doing with Ravager. There are moments, though, where they should have scaled it back. They should have scaled it back significantly, because if you don't have the money to realize the scope, scale it back. Make it work like they did in the first film. There are moments where they very much overreach in Ravager, but the basic nugget of what the movie is and what it's trying to say about death, mortality, regret, friendships, life, I think it's saying something really, really profound. And I actually think it kind of bookends the series rather nicely as far as that nugget of story and thematic material. But it's not very good, and it's very cheaply produced. Jelani, what do you think about Ravager?
To me, it's the worst of the series, as I said. And I say that because it's fan service on top of it having a low budget. And it's once again, going back to Oblivion, it's trying to tell me that story, but you can't tell me that story. Like you want to get there. And I understand now that you told me that it was a series of shorts first and parts of it. I kind of get it now. Now I understand like how certain things kind of look choppy. And I get it because you have no money and you're doing this on the weekend and you're doing what you got to do. But like he comes out of the hellscape and he's all torn up with his ice cream man suit, and his car is stolen by some guy. And the some guy doesn't look like he's capable of stealing that car, but he's like, that car is like perfect, and plus it looks nothing like the car from the last installment. It's a completely different car, and then he's got all of his weapons in the trunk, and they're clean, like nothing's happened to them, and he's got guns and swords and all this random stuff, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel right. Like it's inconsistent. It was inconsistent, and I know it was fan made, and everybody was like, oh yeah, he got the weapon, he got the things, you know, and it just and it kept cutting back and forth. It was too choppy. Angus Scrimm wasn't in it enough, but I understand why. You know, and yeah, you're right. It needed to dial back what it was trying to do. I liked how Rocky was in it, but Rocky should have been in it from Jump Street. Like if you're gonna put Rocky in it, Rocky should have been the one that like found his car or something, or you know, somewhere where she was involved with this too. Because I want both of them to interact with each other again. If you're gonna have her in 3 and then call back to her at the end, no one would have known who she was, to be honest, if you just watch this film. But it would have been nice for that. And I don't get how Mike was there, or what's Mike's brother's name? Jody. I don't understand how Jody's there again, and he's
because the idea, because this is the thing.
Was he dead?
So some people are like, so they're trying to say in this movie, once again, spoilers, but they're trying to say, like, are they trying to say that this is all in Reggie's head? Right? Yeah. And there is a moment, is it in this one? It is in this one, right? Where the tall man goes, no, you're all in my dream. Or something like that. Or
he tells Reggie, you're my nightmare, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And so, like, but what I think they're establishing here is because one, it was just the idea that we got the tuning forks from the very get-go. They're crossing dimensional barriers, right? We find out that there's thousands of tall men. There's like an infinite supply across all these different dimensions, all these different realities. I think they're giving us these overlapping realities. And I think that they're trying to kind of take the idea that dreams are a way into other realities. Even like, let's get meta with it. Take everything you know about Grant Morrison and what he speaks on in his writing and apply it to Phantasm. And then I think it has a little bit more of a deeper appreciation for what they're trying to do in Ravager.
Money. If you're going to do that story, if you're going to do that,
here's what's crazy to me. Are you telling me that you couldn't have crowdfunded a fucking Kickstarter? Now, here's the thing. In 2012, probably not, right?
I'm not against it. I mean,
but like,
I'm not
nowadays,
if you're going to do that story, if you're going to do that story, then man, you better have like a studio on it, because that's the only way you're going to tell that. That's the only way that you, or if you're going to have that budget, at least imply it. Imply that this is happening. Make sure that you have certain scenes, or you can make it a slice of life where it's just.
Like, I'll be honest with you, man. They had the green screen skills of Bueller, and I'm not saying that is like a bad thing about Bueller, but like that was it. Like it was like they were in somebody's basement with a fucking green screen, you know, and that's what it was, and it suffers because it looks like that. Dylan, what do you? Speaking of YouTubers with horrible green screen techniques, because Bueller I think does it well. I've never fucked with it, but this is all real, baby. We're authentic. These are real Star Trek novels. Anyway, what do you think of Phantasm Ravager?
It's all right. Not my favorite. I mean, it's you get to see it end, and you get to see Reggie, have a conclusion and everything, and it's sad at times, It's sad to see him go like that because that Angus Scrimm died after this, and Reggie is 75 years old in real life, and it's it hits you where it should, because the whole thing is about death, and the unknowing, and it's sad, and it's nice to see everyone come together, but it is very cheaply made, and I can see where it kind of can piss people off because you're like, it's all in Reggie's head, is none of it real, but I've seen worse. For sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
and I think the illusion is it's not all in Reggie's head. In one reality it is, but right after that scene, like, what do you see?
Yeah.
You see them like in this post-apocalyptic world in which the Tallman's minions are running society and they're fighting against it, right? So who knows?
Yep. I know it's one of those, man.
But it looks like a student.
It'll make you think.
This is a student
until
film.
End of time, It's almost like life after death, man. They say we couldn't comprehend it. Our brains aren't, we're not able to comprehend that. And maybe in a way that's what he's trying to do with Phantasm, where at times it's so confusing, where he's like, you're not supposed to comprehend it. Maybe you'll pick up things here and there after watching it so many times, but you'll never fully understand, or maybe you'll just come to your own understanding. Everyone will have everyone, I'm sure, has their, has a different takeaway from it. But yeah.
One of my favorite things about the entire series is that people can have their fan theories, and you can really dive in and you could like lay it out all over your wall, type it all out. You could like come up with all these theories about what everything means and represents and this and that. And it gives fans an ownership of this franchise. And I really think that if anything leads to disappointment, is the idea that you ever even expected answers from Phantasm to begin with. Because let's be honest, no Phantasm movie should ever end with the definitive, this is what really happened. Because you still never know in any of these 5 films what was real and what wasn't.
That's true.
Right? Brooks, what do you think about Ravager?
I actually liked Ravager pretty well. I mean, it kind of went back to that the dreamlike, like the kind of dreamlike atmosphere of the first movie more. With these like Reggie, all of a sudden, like he's doing this, and then all of a sudden he just wakes up and he's somewhere else, and then he wakes up and he's somewhere else, and then all of these like eventually converging into like a definitive reality for him. Like because he's in the mental institution, he's like, I'm not going out like this. I'm going out like this, with his gun and shit. And it is like, it's chock full of fan service, but considering that I just watched like the previous 4, I was actually kind of down for that.
Yeah, right.
But I did like the one thing that did kind of piss me off is that they shoved Rocky at the end when they could have like had her show up at least a little bit earlier on in the movie. But it was still fun, and it's still Phantasm,
Yeah, and I think instead of Chunk, it should have been Tim, the kid.
Yeah.
I got the whole crew back together.
And he still has the frisbee with the razor blade.
But it's got like, is it blood stained?
Yeah, I mean, I feel what you're saying, because I like what they're trying to do. It is obviously made too cheaply they couldn't quite reach certain levels of certain things. And they're literally just grabbing stock footage of like riots and war zones and like, CG and a fucking sphere over it. And this is the first film with CG fucking spheres, sentinels as they call them. And I think they look terrible. Think they're looking absolutely terrible. So let's do the rankings. I mean, the ratings out of 5 possible you digs. You out there in the chat, let us know as well. Jelani, what do you give Ravager?
I'll give it a 2.5 as well. I'm not gonna knock it too hard. It is fan service. It's true fan service, but it's a student film. It's on the student film budget. It's flat. The flat scenes are flat. If you're gonna do CG, at least you can afford practical effects if you're doing CG. That's what I think, and you can make things a lot simpler. I don't know. It could have been shot in a way where if you're gonna do an epic scale, at least shoot it smaller, make it a little smaller, at least have TV news reports or something nonsense. I don't know how to do it. I'm not that creative, but I'm just saying that it could have been told a little better if you're gonna do an apocalyptic thing. And if you're gonna have CG, at least have someone look at it first before you put it out. And I understand that now that I understand that it was a series of shorts first. Like I said, it's not even. I couldn't even really call it, a piece together film. So I mean, it's trying to give me the story with all of this lore and the fact that the tall man takes over dimensions, but I can't feel myself in it. I just can't. And Reggie was great, of course, and it was all fan service to him. And Angus Scrim was great for the 10 minutes he was in it. And it was, it is what it is. And Chunk, by the way, should have never survived. He should have never. I don't know how you live from an explosion.
He had grenades all over his body, and he tackled him with exploding grenades, and he loses a hand.
He loses a hand. Yeah, you should be dead. You should be pieces, extra pieces. So whatever, it is what it is. You live your life. I wish Rocky was in it because she looked badass. She looked badass, and I was like, she should have been in this film. But yeah, it's all those things. So I'll rate it as much as Oblivion. I'm never gonna watch it again.
What about you, Dylan?
I guess I'll do 2.5. Like 5. Nah, I'll probably do 2. Honestly, just because it is a student film, so you got you can't really put it there because the other 4 are practical effects, and a lot more went into them. I mean, maybe more went into them in the 5th one because it was harder to make since they had no money, but it's one that I probably won't ever watch again. But I do appreciate the ending. I appreciate the fan service. But yeah, man, there's no practical effects in it. The CG is so bad.
Terrible.
The balls are the CG is it's terrible. It's like a student film, but I don't know. I do enjoy seeing the full cast come together, like I said. But yeah, man, it's just I don't know, man. It's not one I enjoy watching that much, man. For real. Yeah, I just enjoy seeing everyone come together. That's the real thing, and seeing it have an actual ending, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Brooks?
How are you feel?
I'd give this one a 4.
Ooh. Wow.
I can overlook a lot of the I guess the visual effects flaws in it, because I think the story, I really enjoyed the story in this one, and how it did kind of go back to how the first one, the dreamlike way of it, and it does wrap up. It kind of wraps up things, but it also leaves it like that open-ended, like it could be a sequel. But since that's never going to happen, we just have to kind of make up one on your own these days.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably for the best. Because I think sometimes if you keep going, it just like the only way to go is down. I think that may have happened with this series.
What I would actually like to see, if they want to make this flesh out this world, and maybe I would love to see a novel series, maybe even comic books, cool. Comics, something like that. Like, even I think novel though, you could really get into some of that,
the details,
the thematic material too. Right. So I'm not going to go. This is where me and Brooks will disagree. I won't go 4, but I will go 3.5. I think this movie is trying to. I think it says more than Oblivion did. I think it says more than Lord of the Dead does, but I don't think it's as good as Lord of the Dead, but I do think it's pretty solid. I wish they would have scaled some of the stuff back, but I like that they're going back to that nightmarish, dreamlike stream of consciousness type atmosphere from the first film. So 2.5, 2.5, 2, 3.5, and 4. So that's an average of who the fuck knows. Let's see out there in the chat. Mikey says, this is a 4.5. It has the most meaning to it besides the first film. As a fan waiting nearly 20 years, I was fully serviced and looked past the visual flaws for that strong story. Very similar to what Brooks said. Fable says, 2 you digs if you're a Phantasm fan, 1 you dig if you're anyone else. Yeah, if you're not a fan of Phantasm, this movie's going to do nothing for you. It's going to make you not want to watch Phantasm. And that would be a terrible thing. Overall, I love the franchise, and I think it's strong. What is it trying to say? We've touched on it. It's about death. It's about grief. It's about mortality. It's so obvious. Everything is so obvious about that. It's in a mortuary. It's in a mausoleum. It's about dead people. It's about dealing with grief. It's about a kid and his older brother. Think about this. This movie came out in 1978. There were a lot of kids in the 70s dealing with the idea that their older siblings had gone off to Vietnam and died, right? So this is something that's prevalent at the time. It's almost, the first Phantasm is almost a kid's movie about, not a kid's movie, but like, a teen movie about dealing with grief, loss. I love it. What do you think the movie and the entire franchise is trying to say, Jelani?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is about death. It's about mortality. It's about the unknown. It's a lot about the unknown and how Don Coscarelli like interprets death. Because I'm pretty sure, this is what he sees in his fever dreams, and this is why he made this film. So I get it, and it's a wild ride, and I feel that the unknown would be the largest part of this, the fear of death and death itself. It's very dark. It can be funny at times. It's got its goofy natures, and the first Phantasm and the second Phantasm will always be rewatchable to me. So they always have that theme, and they're good. Those 2 films to me are good in 2 different ways. One is a horror film. One is kind of an action horror film. It's kind of on the evil. Like I said, Phantasm 2 is more leaning towards Evil Dead 2, and you get that feeling. So, I mean, yeah, it's about the unknown and what you will never see about death, or how you would feel about death itself.
Well, what about you, Dylan? As you would say, what is this movie trying to say?
I'd say it's probably, I think the deepest meaning is probably, like I've mentioned, the unknowing of life and death, I mean, where do we go? What happens, as the tall man would say, is you come to me, but
chilling.
Yeah.
What if that is the terrible fate? What if and I think we can almost extrapolate out of that. That means that what we know, which is this life, we got to make the most of this. Yeah. Because what if we die and we just become fucking dwarf slaves and our brains get yanked out? And I love that they elaborate that on 4. They shrink down the bodies, use the brains for the spheres, and then the bodies are the dwarves. Like, that's fucked up. What if that's everybody's fate? And as you're a kid dealing with this stuff, to have that imagery, the yellow blood, that's like formaldehyde and stuff, all the tubes going in. And it's all this stuff when you're first confronted. And I had to deal with death at an early age. It's so surreal and dreamlike when you're in these like places and dealing with this kind of stuff. And I think it does a great job of capturing that, especially with some of the music, like the organ bits in the first one, especially, right, Dylan?
Oh, dude, no doubt. Because when you lose someone, it feels like a dream. You don't want to believe it. It feels like it's not real. You're like, when am I going to wake up? And this is all going to be just a bad dream. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
it's crazy, man. I never thought of it like that, too. I've always thought about like the unknowing and all that. But you're right, man. It's crazy how it digs into that. Because the first 3 all take place within funeral parlors, and the second one with the priest and everything.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, I don't think if any movies really dig on stuff like this, like it's very unique film series, very unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
Brooks, what do you think this series is trying to say?
Well, I think it's saying a lot about the nature of reality and how we perceive it, and like the possibility of multiple realities, and like maybe your dreams aren't as unreal as you think. Maybe like like and the whole idea that there's this guy, like we don't know anything about, we never really learn what the tall man's motivations are really. Like, I mean, he's making this army, but to what end? He doesn't have like people. He doesn't have like all it's really shown is just he's amassing this army, sending these dwarf things here, and then the orbs are flying around just killing people. It's like they don't really give you a reason, like what is the tall man really, and that's never really explained. It's just kind of hinted at. And like, is he real, or is he just like part of maybe he's an aspect of Michael's imagination or something like that,
or Reggie's?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all hit it on the nail of the head in the nature of reality and like if we think death is the great unknown, the nature of reality and consciousness is just as much of an unknown. And that's one of the reasons why death is such an unknown, is because we don't know. And the unknown can be scary, and it can seem stark and different and nightmarish and dreamlike when you're confronted with it. And I think Phantasm as a series does a great job exploring that, most particularly in the first film. And that's our review on all the Phantasm series. Wow, we did that in just 2 hours. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Be sure to join us next week as Horrorfest rolls on through. We're dipping back to the classic Universal monsters, and we're going to be live talking about The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. and Claude Rains. And I couldn't be more excited. One of my absolute favorite movies. And I know it's one of Dylan's favorite movies. And in fact, Dylan is super pumped for that because he's got something special planned for the Saturday following that. So make sure you sub up to Dylan's comics. There's a link in the description below. Dylan, my man, final thoughts on Phantasm, on everything, because I know you're about to dip out before back chat. Why don't you tell us what's coming up?
Not when this week or next week.
Next week after Wolfman.
Man, I haven't decided. I didn't know, but I plan for us to review Trick or Treat. I watched it a couple days ago, man, and I was like, man, this is too good to not review.
Have you never seen it?
Oh hell yeah, I've seen it, bro.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I just watched it the other day. I was like, as a rewatch, I've seen that movie 100 times, but I was like, this would be perfect. And my boy just got the Blu-ray, so I thought, something we all could watch. I was debating if it should be next week or Halloween weekend, but we'll probably just do it next week.
Let's do it next week, man.
Yeah, that's a great film, man.
That's
freaking clean.
Yeah, man, I'm really pumped to talk about that one. It's because we've done a lot of older stuff, so I thought it'd be cool to talk about one of the great movies of the last, what is it, 10 years, 15 years?
It was like 2008 or something.
It was 2008 or 9, yeah. It was God.
We actually did do a newer movie than that. It was Cabin in the Woods, but it's a modern classic, man.
Yeah, it is. It's so good. Oh, man.
And I honestly think it's the best film about the holiday of Halloween.
Yes.
Sam!
It really dives into
the lore.
The lore of Sam Hain or whatever, I love it, man. It's phenomenal, man. I could watch that one over and over. So good.
Hell yeah. So be on the lookout for that. That will be next Saturday, not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we're all taking the weekend off, a nice deserved break. We're actually going to be hanging out watching the latest Halloween remake. That's going to be exciting. And we got lots more Horrorfest coming. because Halloween week, there's going to be plenty of stuff. Trust me. But we are very excited. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't worry. PCP Back Chat is coming right up after a short break. We may lose Dylan, but we're going to be doing a little bit of back chat and a little bit of show and tell. Thank you guys. We'll be right back. And remember, we're hot as love. Boy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to PCP Back Chat. It's the show after the show. Me, Jelani, and Brooks. Chatting, talking, answering your questions. Having a good grand old time. We are very excited that we had Dylan's presence with us tonight, as we have for every week during Horrorfest. I love how before Horrorfest, Dylan would be kind of spotty. Whenever we do a horror film, Dylan is always there. Right, Bruin?
Seems so.
Dylan loves the horror films, and we love spending time with him, chatting about them. That was a really great show, I think. I think we really did a great job of taking all 5 movies, kind of really getting in depth about it and having a good conversation that just came in at 2 hours, basically. I'm very surprised by...
Yeah, it's pretty good for 5 movies.
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
brevity of it.
That's true.
I like it. Hey, what are you two doing Thursday night? Either of you guys have plans, you two?
Well, I work till 8, so...
Yeah, after that, you got any plans?
Not really. Thursday? What's up?
I was thinking about inviting y'all over, watching a movie, and I'm going to type the name of the movie in our private chat and watching it, and then filming an in-studio review to christen the new set and kind of surprise everybody with an extra bonus Horrorfest video.
I like it.
What do you guys think? Maybe Thursday night after about 9 o'clock?
I'm a fan. Yeah, like we can do that. Yep.
I've been listening to the score because we don't want to reveal the movie. We want it to be a big surprise. But I've been listening to the score for the last 3 days, and it's really fucking good, obviously.
Yeah.
So hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
All
man.
right.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll post a hint in the next coming days in the PCP Army, which is the official Pop Culture Philosophers Facebook group. Y'all had a good week?
Yeah, man. I mean, so far so good. I mean, craziness always ensues in this lovely year of our Lord 2020.
We got Mike in the chat.
Mike.
What's up, buddy?
I've been watching all the Friday the 13th movies and reading books, trying to catch up, man. You gave me a lot of homework.
Yeah, so. We're doing Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th of November, and just perfectly timed because the new box set's out too. It's like Brooks already fucking watched the first 8. Like Brooks is really? I'm gonna be on top of this shit.
God damn.
Yeah, I found the DVD set at Walmart for cheap, so I just went ahead and bought it and watched them.
Oh, okay.
I got it for cheap.
Yeah, I've up to the final chapter. I'm up to the final chapter. Yeah, Jason X is the business. Best kill ever.
I can let you borrow them, Brooks, because I have them on Blu-ray now.
Good movie. And Jason Goes to Hell. That's a good movie to have.
Yeah, you also need Freddy versus Jason in the remake because that's what
we're gonna cover those too.
Yeah, we're covering all 12, man.
Oh my god!
Every movie.
Oh wait, yes, I have.
We're doing the remake too.
Yeah. The remake was the one where the girl got stabbed with a machete through the water or in the water. I like that kill.
Maybe we were talking about how the Phantasm films run into one another. Some of the Friday the 13th ones do, because people are like, "Do you remember what movie was that kill in?" I'm like, I don't fucking remember.
Oh no!
I watched the first 2 this week, and those 2 are kind of distinctive.
Yeah,
because
the first one especially.
Yeah, the first one, because of the Kevin Bacon kill.
Right.
The second one I remember because of the
wheelchair.
The dude in the wheelchair. I just fucking love it.
Man. That's a great kill.
I love it. That's
a fantastic kill.
I do.
I'm writing down all my favorite kills. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, we need to do that because that's definitely going to be a topic.
Yeah, I'll put my favorite kills. So yeah, it's getting there, and some are better than others. And I like how Final Chapter is turning out. I think Final Chapter might be a pretty decent film.
That's a lot of people's favorite. That's a lot of people's favorite.
It's 4, right?
That's number 4.
That's 4. Yeah, that's the one where they were like
5 is the New Blood, right?
Yeah, 5's New Blood.
Yeah.
4's the one with George McFly.
Yeah, Crispin Glover.
Yeah,
and Corey Feldman is the kid. Is Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not bad so far. I've gotten to the part where Crispin Glover does the dance.
Oh, the dance.
I'm like, oh god. I stopped it. And I was like, I got to do this thing. We got to do the live stream for Phantasm. I was like, I'm going to forget everything I talked about in Phantasm.
Dude, I was finding this hard to do. Okay, so I watched all the Phantasm films and I wrapped them up. I think I watched Ravager, Monday night, right? I gave Brooks the sets, right?
I call it Sunday.
And in between that, I had watched the newest Halloween, and I had watched 2 Friday the 13th films, and I rewatched Incident on and Off a Mountain Road by Don Coscarelli, and I've been watching Eli Roth's History of Horror. So this is all jumbling around in my fucking head, and I'm like, wait a second. What was the phantasm in which this part happened? Where did the way reveal the brain thing? That's 3, right? Or is that 4? I was like,
right. They're all together, man. But yeah, 4 is easily forgettable.
Kind of the downside of watching them back to back.
And also a bonus, but
meld together.
But the problem is that we want to get ahead on Friday the 13th, because we don't want to like all of a sudden be like, when's that Friday the 13th video? Oh, 5 days. Well, let me watch 12 fucking movies, because it ain't like it used to be where we just had an infinite amount of fucking time where we could just hang out and watch. I'm getting fucking Facebook memories, right? On my fucking feed of previous Horrorfest right now. And like right now on one of them, we're on like movie fucking 50 something. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
We watched a lot of movies. We watched a lot of movies.
We do like 2 or 3 a night, and we throw in like Masters of Horror. We throw in episodes of Twilight Zone or Tales from the Dark Side or, something like Tales from the Crypt, and things like that. So
good times, man. Real good times.
Fable says Freddy versus Jason is better than it has any right to be. Okay, maybe.
That's all right.
Mikey says my guess is Mikey's guess for our surprise bonus Horrorfest and studio review is The Thing. I'll just say that you're wrong.
Yeah, because we already did it.
Well, we've done John Carpenter's The Thing twice already on the channel. Most recently this year, in this format, actually. And we had Dylan and John and Strickland on that one as well. And that was a great one, Mikey. So if you haven't checked out our review on The Thing, we've done 2. One of them a few years ago and one of them this year with this crew in this format. We had a lot of fun doing it. But it's not any other version of The Thing either. But it is a great film that has actually been discussed multiple times.
Yeah,
here on the channel.
Know what it is. Everybody should know what it is, and I'm super excited because you should know what it is.
But next week will be Wolfman. I'm very excited. And Stefan's funny. Stefan's like, Wolfman was 2010.
The Benicio del Toro one.
Yeah,
Anthony Hopkins.
I like
that one. I never did.
Yeah, I like it, except. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but they make a change in it that I don't like.
Yeah.
They make a big change.
Yeah. That's kind of sad.
Mike probably might know the mystery movie. He probably does.
Yeah.
I would love it if you guys did The Fly. I watched Perry's reaction to The Fly, the Cronenberg Fly, and that was funny. It's fun to watch these films with someone who's never seen it or to just watch their reactions, like what they honestly think about these things when the things are happening. Like I watched his reaction to Psycho, and there's always a piece of me that thinks that maybe Perry's kind of like hamming it up for the cameras at times, like he's playing who doesn't know that Norman Bates dresses up as his dead mother and kills people? Most people know that, but he acted like that was news to him. So he's like, this dude's mom's crazy. And so when he shows up, he's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, but I feel like it's a natural reaction because I've interacted with Perry and I'm loving it. He did Friday the 13th today, which is funny. I haven't watched it yet though. So
I gotta watch his videos. I feel bad I haven't watched them yet. Cause I want to see
he's a featured channel here on the homepage. So yeah, check him out. He's a super cool guy. And if you've never checked out, I did a Teen Dog Shades night with Perry and Bueller from Comics with Bueller. And that was one of my favorite shows ever. We literally broke his fucking brain. And I think that he's like attained another level of awareness about the cosmic reality around him since that night. Just saying.
I'm a little worried about that.
I don't know if Jay Strick has seen The Fly.
No. Yeah, that would fuck him up.
What's funny is that the last movie we did before Monster Squad on Dylan's channel, we did the poll winner of Let's Fuck Jay Strick Up, and it was Reanimator, and Jay Strick's not here tonight, y'all. So I think we successfully broken Jay Strick.
Like, I can't watch any more horror movies.
It's too much for me, man. It was Reanimator. What was that? Always admired your beauty.
Crampton. Good film. And but The Fly is very treacherous. Like, it's hard for me. I think it bothers me on the level of the Thing because of his transformation. How they like show him fall apart. It's just so it's so unnerving. And he throws up to eat.
Oh, I love it.
It's so much just why. I don't think I've ever watched The Fly 2. Have you watched The Fly at all, Brooks?
I watched it, saw it a long time ago. The Jeff Goldblum one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the Vincent Price one. I need to watch the Vincent Price one. Because I heard that one was okay, and then there's the cheesy ending. But it's still Vincent Price. I gotta check it out. But like the Fly 2 was similar, but I don't know how, and I can't remember it. Because I remember watching it as a kid, but I don't remember anything about it.
That's what Baxter Stockman from the Turtles cartoon was based off of, was The Fly.
Really? Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. He had, that they're coming, the NECA version of Baxter Stockman is coming out in a 2-pack with Splinter from the cartoon.
I'm not doing the NECAs, man.
Yeah, they're expensive, man. That's a real deal. I've got all the ones I want, except for Splinter, and I need to get Splinter, but he comes with Baxter Stockman.
They're expensive, but they are really good. Man.
They're really good. They look just like the cartoon, man. Yeah, the best figure out of that whole set, next to the Turtles themselves, I would say would be like April O'Neil. The way they made April O'Neil is perfect, and Splinter. Splinter has this great cape, this beautiful sword. I mean, he looks just like. I mean, it's spitting image cartoon characters. And they're some of my favorite figures now, but they're expensive as hell. And you find them. If you find them, you gotta get them when you see them.
They good, man.
Yeah, they good.
We had someone special order the Raphael, and it came in, and it just was amazing.
Yeah,
JB says all Cronenberg is disturbing. Yes.
Yep.
And yeah, that
Morty episode.
That movie Shredder does.
Cronenberg Morty.
Yeah, it does.
Look at the non-Cronenbergs.
Like, even though Dylan left, another Dylan popped in, said, "Are we real?" In a very Phantasm-esque way. Is this the real Dylan? Was it all a dream that Dylan was ever here in the first place? Did the tall man get him?
He got.
We may never know.
You're in a sphere now, and you're gonna turn into Jody. Who knew?
He'd be the Jody?
He'd be the Jody.
We know who the Reggie would be. That'd be Brooks.
Yeah, that's Brooks. That's Brooks. Yeah.
You know, it gets hard on the road.
And I would be any dead black guy.
There's no black guys in this film franchise.
No, not at all.
Not a single black dude, is there?
There's Rocky.
There's 2 black women. One of them gets got immediately.
Immediately.
Well, there are probably some people in Ravager, but I don't remember, that are part of their like resistance.
No, and if they are,
covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm not kicking them out. They got Rocky in there. Representation.
Yeah, that's true. Rocky's pretty dope. They could have utilized. I at the end though, she was like, "Nah, man, fuck this shit. I'm done." I'm like,
yeah,
dips out.
Yeah, I'm taking this car and I'm leaving.
I don't think so, Dylan. I love how Dylan's like, "Yeah, guys, I got to dip out." Meanwhile, he's in the chat.
God.
Dylan's like, "I'm Reggie from the one multiverse that he actually gets laid in." Just saying.
What is it? Is it alchemy?
Alchemy.
Woo!
Like he's just like,
he's like, all right,
far out.
I'll go with this. It's all good. I mean, was she? Was she undead the whole time, or was she turned some other?
She was a plant, dude.
You don't fucking know. You're not supposed to know what is real and what's not. It's Phantasm. It can be whatever you want it to be, bro.
I want it to be real, man.
What if she's the tall man?
Ew. Then that'd been worse.
Part of his MO.
That'd been worse. That's true. Woo! Boy.
She's just like beating the shit out of Reggie, basically, and Reggie's just like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm getting it. That sucks though. His family dies. Like they're cooking dinner. We're gonna go to the house now. Boom! I'm like, wow.
And that's a great thing too. Is in Ravager, we didn't even pick up on that. But the moment where Tall Man tempts him where he's like, I can bring you back to your family. And he's like, why is it these two? Why are these two brothers? Why are they so important to you? And like, that's a great moment. Like, Scrim only really has two solid moments in there. And that's that moment and the moment in the bed. Right.
Yeah.
But they're really good. And when you know the situation that he's not filmed walking down the hallway because he probably really couldn't,
Right.
And God, they say also that while he's on set during those films, he stays in character.
Oh my God. I want to meet that. I wanted to meet that guy. I feel bad because after all of these movies, after I watched them all together.
I thought about this earlier, Fable. I was thinking about this earlier, and I really couldn't think of anybody because I started thinking about the idea that it is Phantasm what's inspired Supernatural, the classic car, the two buddies, family basically on the road trying to hunt down monsters, right?
Yep.
And it's because I was like, this would have been a great TV series because I was like, the idea that Ravager was supposed to be a web series, but like, if you wanted to reboot Phantasm,
you make it a TV show.
What's the name of the dude that was in No Country for Old Men?
Yeah,
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. Yeah,
I think he would probably make.
He'd make a good
choice for a tall man.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about it, and at one point I did think Matthew McConaughey. But you couldn't put him in a role. He wouldn't be able to do the boy thing very well.
Yeah.
But I started thinking, and what I came up with was Doug Jones.
Doug Jones could do it.
Tall, lanky.
Tall, yeah. And they could prosthetics to where he looks old too.
Nobody could do what Angus did, but Doug Jones would probably be cool.
Doug Jones would be cool. But I would get Javier Bardem. I mean, he's amazing, and he would play that straight man so well, and he could probably boy.
And he's almost got the same haircut.
Boy. Yeah. Anton Sugar.
He doesn't. Yeah, Sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like, yeah, he's perfect. I think he'd been great too. I mean, they mess it up though. Phantasm remade, of course. They never do them well. Remake.
I would want it as a series, like a 8 to 13 episode like HBO series or something. I think could work.
Yeah.
And let's just say that you come from the idea, and obviously you get Dawn involved, but you come from the idea that we know what the whole series was trying to get to and what it actually did. Now let's lay the groundwork from the beginning. So you maybe can introduce Rocky a little bit earlier into the story. Maybe you can introduce the mental connection between Michael and whatever her name was in part 2, a little bit earlier. You could get to some of these things a bit earlier. You could actually utilize Jody. And we didn't even talk about Bill Thornberry. His Jody is doofy in a lot of the other movies, but in the first film, I love him as the big brother.
Hold on a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Somebody's
He's like the cool guy in the first movie.
Yeah, he is a super cool guy. And I don't think we've paid enough attention to that fucking song that him and Reggie do, man. I fucking love it. It's actually something that factors into show and tell, which we'll be getting to shortly. Jelani says someone was knocking his door at fucking 11:30 at night. $10 says it's Mike Matthews.
It's the tall man.
It's a boy. We never see. What if we never saw Jelani again? That's a sad thought, man. I hope he's okay. I hope Jelani's okay. Anyway, what should we talk about until then? Have you ever seen Videodrome?
Sorry. Somebody was banging a hammer against the wall, I guess.
We were afraid Mike Matthews had shown up or the tall man won.
Coming for you, boy.
Videodrome's a great
turn
movie.
into a silver orb. Don't lie.
Oh, it's coming out of my head. That's where it's coming from.
I love that there's Mike right there. He's like, it's not me. I love how like the one dude that dies from the fucking ball in the first movie is like, is he just a random worker at this fucking mortuary? Is he one of the tall man's people? I don't know.
Well,
the tall man has people that work for him.
There's like at least one other dude that's kind of like a tall man henchman.
Yeah, he's like a familiar, right? So like,
it's
kind of this like tall, lanky dude with black hair.
I am fine. Thank you.
I think that's the way to go, JB, if you want to continue the Phantasm franchise from Ravager on and actually fill in gaps. Let us know what happened to Reggie when he went at the end of Oblivion into the fucking tall man's reality?
That would be nice to know.
What happened?
Yeah.
Apparently he went through some shit. And what happened to Michael? He's laying there dead. I mean, because he dies at the end of Oblivion, allegedly, but his eye moves a little bit or whatever. I don't know. These movies make Inception seem very clear.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a thing in 5. At one point, Michael, like, he gets the glazed over eyes, like when he had the orb inside his head, you know?
Yeah.
Remember he had the metallic eyes?
Yeah.
For like a second in that movie. So I was like, hey, they still have that?
He had it in 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm. It was so weird, and then they don't explain any of it.
You get the idea that he's important because
he's
in a way
like
he's one of them. They got him.
They got him like in 3. Like he got God in 3.
Man, they got him in 1, bro.
Really? You think they got him in 1, and then he grew up, and then he has a ball in his head during 2.
Well, the tall man has a ball in his head at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the fuck ever.
It's a lot of questions.
That to me is not the important thing about Phantasm. It's an interesting aspect is how does everything really connect? But the idea I think is that it's not really necessarily supposed to.
Well, the tall man even says like this is like when he's like talking to Michael about, you know, what he's done to him, he's like, that was just like that body you're wearing is just a sack of meat. It's not important.
Yeah, you almost like, is it almost like this is how you exist? It's a weird thing, man. Like, it almost give a reference to the idea that like Mike is like an old friend of his from another life or something, you know? Yeah. And like now he's like, and he's somehow lowered himself into a more fleshy dimension, you know? And so it's interesting. And they never, it's so sad they never had the opportunity to really fully explore what they wanted.
Yeah.
To do. Yeah.
It's just need money, man. You need money for all that stuff. And it felt aimless towards the end for me. It's just, like I said, like if you get a story like that, if you want to tell a story like that, you start a fleshed out story from the beginning. At least tell me a story at the beginning that it could lead to the apocalypse. I want it to lead to the apocalypse. You tell me that in Phantasm. You know, you set up a good world, but you're not telling me that his goal was the end of all things. You know, I want to see that, or at least imply that.
Or it's just a fucking fever dream.
Right.
By Mike or Reg or Jody or anybody, by you, you know, it's a night
ruled by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Really?
Damn.
Womp womp.
Womp 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 womp.
Womp womp. So be it. All right, man. Well, what other movies do you think have this fever dream type thing? Is it that unique? Or have there been things like
Jacob's Ladder is kind of like that.
Which one?
I haven't watched Jacob's Ladder.
Tim Robbins.
Oh, yeah. I would say Suspiria digs into it.
Yeah.
I think Suspiria digs into it. Not too many things. The Cell.
Cell does it.
Yeah, with Jennifer Lopez, Vince Vaughn, Vincent
D'Onofrio. Yeah,
that one very good movie.
That was creepy. Yeah. It's very underrated.
What, Phantasm or The Cell?
No, The Cell.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, Phantasm's underrated too.
I agree. But the Cell is
a horror staple, but Cell is underrated in general.
Cell is fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
and well performed. By everybody, even Vince Vaughn, very convincing in his role.
Even Vince Vaughn.
My favorite moment is when he's getting his guts ripped out, right, and spun up on that thing, and Vince Vaughn just goes at one point, "Fuck you, motherfucker!" Like that's a great response, I think, to having your guts slow.
That's what you say.
If nobody out there's ever seen The Cell, what it is they literally get inside the killer's mind.
Yeah.
And Vincent D'Onofrio plays them. And so inside there's like, based on some kind of philosophy of like there being 5 aspects of the serial killer, the child, the jester, the king, and all these aspects are there and they're confronting them, and it's just such a visually riveting film
That's really good.
it's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Remember I saw that in the theater with you and George and some.
Blew me away,
and me, man. We watched all of these together.
Like I was there.
I was there. But yeah, it was very surreal. I remember where we sat. But yeah, it was a packed theater because I remember it being packed because it's J-Lo. J-Lo made them movies happen.
Yeah, J-Lo, she's fine in the film.
Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah,
it's just more visually stunning, I think, and just
it
really
is
cool concept. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Plummer as the tall man, too old, man.
Yeah,
I know the tall man always seemed old, but he wasn't that old in the first Phantasm. Because it's like 40 fucking years that these 5 movies.
This guy just played, and he played that character. I don't think anybody could really replace Angus Scrimm though. He just has the presence.
J-Lo.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never seen Open Your Eyes, but I have seen Vanilla Sky, and I like that one. That is a dreamlike movie. At least Vanilla Sky is. I'm sure the original one is too.
Yeah,
I've never seen Vanilla Sky.
I like it. It's one of those rare movies with Tom Cruise that's good.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, man. I mean, I love those fucking last 3 Mission Impossible films. Mostly for the Jeremy Renner and Henry Cavill. Let's be honest.
God, that last one. Oh.
Adam Driver. Adam Driver's the tall man. Think about that. That could work.
He's method. He's method. Whoa!
Gerard Butler? Boy! This is Phantasm!
He hasn't been good since that movie.
I think Vanilla Sky is fantastic too. And they recreate dream sequences through pieces of art, like music, album covers and shit. It's really cool. I like it.
Will I come back as cats?
I think Adam Driver could work too. I think that.
Yeah, Adam Driver's all right. He could
pull it off. What about Justin Timberlake as the tall man? As a random.
He just randomly breaks into song.
Cry me a boy.
Hey, here's a good idea. Here's a really good idea. Tony Todd.
McFarlane?
No, from the Candyman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it.
I like that.
Candyman. I never saw the first one. I only saw the second Candyman.
Candyman. You only watched Farewell to the Flesh and didn't watch Candyman?
Really?
What the hell's wrong with you?
This was the best one, man.
This was the best.
I
watched Farewell to the Flesh in the theater after we were in a play. I was in Brigadoon. It was like 98. And we got out of the place and we went there and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But it was nowhere near as good as Candyman. Nowhere near. Bees, man. I was afraid of bees for like years.
I was afraid of bees too. Story. My girl fucked me up, man.
Yeah, really. Over bees?
I don't like bees. The kid dies at the end of my girl.
That's right. That's right. Oh, those poor bees. Those poor bees. Those poor bees had to kill Macaulay Culkin. That was a good film, though. That actually almost made me cry. That's right. I remember that. It was sad, man. But yeah, bees bothered me for years.
I think Tony, that's his name, right? Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. Mm-hmm.
I think he could be a tall man.
He could do it.
That'd be really cool. And you know what? You know what?
And it's the voice.
Give him the fucking haircut.
Yes. That permed like
like Snoop Dogg and Bones.
Yes.
Boy, he would do it his own way and it would still be instantly iconic because he's already an icon. Right. That voice, the face, because not just Candyman. He played Ben in the Night of the Living Dead remake.
Night of the Dead remake, yeah. He got bit.
Jake fucking Busey is the tall man.
Busey with all those teeth. Hey, boy. He's just all teeth.
All right, just go Gary Busey in that case.
Man, Gary Busey would ruin it. He's nuts. He's nuts,
Gary
man.
Busey never ruins anything. He makes everything better.
He's just got that crazy eye. And he just spit out theories and stuff and never say boy. He never say.
The problem is you could probably recast. I think recasting the tall man would be easier than recasting Reggie.
True.
Yeah.
Because where the hell you going to find a guy with a ponytail that's bald?
Come on, you mother.
And get a hat that says boogie down. let's boogie down.
I forgot about the fucking hat, man.
Yeah, I was like, why are you boogieing down? You could have done that in the first movie and I've been okay with it.
Oh, I love it.
It's not a thing after that. I felt terrible it wasn't a thing after that. It's like boogie down. All right, Reggie. But yeah, he is a weird, I don't know, like an Ash-like character. You're right. He's that cowardly, reluctant hero, but he turns out to be pretty solid.
He's very heroic. He's not. I think I misstepped when I said
not cowardly.
He's not cowardly.
He jumps in because even in the second one, when after his family dies, he's like, I'm all in. I knew this is the life for me. And like right then, he was like, he just clipped in.
And we mentioned how Don Coscarelli said that scene in the first one where he's like, we got to find this guy, strap him down, and put a stake through his fucking
Yeah.
So he's DTF, man. He's down to fuck shit up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, brother.
All day long. Good times and great oldies.
Good times and great oldies.
But
here's a first that's happened tonight. This is the first time this has ever happened. We've been doing these PCP movie nights for a while throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
And doing them live and chatting. And usually we always have more people on the back chat just hanging out with us, right? Tonight's the first night where we actually had more people paying attention during the review, which I think is pretty solid.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people probably watched this movie.
So far, it seemed like this has been the most watched while it was being broadcast out of all the movie reviews that we've done. So that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
I like that.
That's dope.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
the strength of Phantasm, you know?
Yeah.
But here's the question is, did we even do the stream? Is this real?
Was it real?
Who even knows? Probably not. Let's get to show and tell. We're going to switch it up and show and tell. Rockin' Robbie, I'm up. I'll go first.
All right.
So I know this is old news to some of y'all. And I know that Brooks and Jelani get a lot of the same kind of Marvel Legends. It's because they buy them when they first come out. If you just wait a little bit, then you can actually have a moment and be like, I got this Daredevil 90s armor.
He's awesome.
I love this figure. I'm excited to open it up, but it's just such a clean package.
And
you almost don't want to. But,
that's why you get one to rock, one to stock.
Well,
it looks good though.
Here is one I got recently though. But I did pick that up.
Yeah. No apocalypse. And he's happy. It's happy apocalypse.
But he's also got
what he wants.
He's also got a pissed off
face too.
Yeah.
One thing I find it hard to stand him. I can't get him to stand very easily.
Hair dryer. You got to heat up his legs, and then you'll be able to like bend him right the way you want him to, because he's gonna be stiff in the package or out of the package.
I really hope that they do basically almost that same figure, but in the more recognizable apocalypse.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Recent Blu-ray pickups, because you know it's Horrorfest, and I always get influenced, especially by my fucking Facebook ads and my fucking Twitter ads. They know me, and they know that during this time I cannot pass up a great deal on a horror film. So I did get Trick or Treat years ago. I sold my copy because I had the slipcase. I sold it for like $80. So I picked that one up for like less than 10. Right? So now 80, yeah. Wow. I picked up that new Shivers that Dylan was talking about. It's a Cronenberg film. It had just come out. It's funny that we were talking about this, man, but I picked up
Candyman's a shit. I'm still bothered by that movie.
And you know I'm a big fan of Italian horror, right?
Yes. Opera! And it's Dario Argento.
Yeah. And
got Tenebrae? Yes! We gotta watch Tenebrae. I gotta watch Tenebrae, man.
And probably the thing I was the most excited for this week
Oh, that is nice. All the Jason faces. Wow.
Look at that.
Is the 3D actually in 3D?
Yes, it is. And
Nice.
look at that cover.
Nice.
It's gorgeous.
It's all of him. It's all of him.
There's all the movies just loaded up. Now the discs do have some problems, but they just announced a replacement thing. There's like some missing audio in one, and then there's a missing scene in another.
Oh.
But whatever. And then I wanted to end my show and tell opportunity with some Phantasm relics. So I have a sphere that comes with the complete collection on DVD. I mean, on Blu-ray that I have. That Brooks has right now. He has the Blu-rays. But yeah, it's a nice one, and it's got a cool base. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. And an interesting thing about Phantasm is Joe Bob Briggs one time covered it and had Reggie Bannister on the show during Christmas time. And he made it reference Christmas because he goes, it's a Christmas ornament.
Yeah.
But has anybody wondered what this was?
Yeah, kind of.
So this is autographed by Bill Thornbury, right?
Oh,
That's
wow.
Jody. And this is Jody's song. It's the song from the first Phantasm film, Sitting Here at Midnight. And it's the music and the lyrics written out by him and then autographed by him.
Wow. Where'd you find that?
A friend gave this to me a while ago.
That is pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it's cool. It's called Jody's Groove, Sitting Here at Midnight, right? It's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it. I'm
Yeah,
surprised. That's pretty cool. I never knew you had that.
Yeah, it's never been displayed, but I drug it out. So
that's pretty cool.
We're doing Phantasm. Anyway, there you go. Brooks, show and tell, you're up. Show us what you've got.
Well, first off, like I found this, I went to the grocery store the other day, and you remember how cereals used to have like toys in them?
Oh
yeah, years ago.
It does. It's these little things now.
Oh wow! What is that?
Have all the General Mills mascots in these tiny little things. So, like I picked up a box just for the joy of opening one to find all these stupid little toys in it.
You got that like in Honey Nut Cheerios or something?
No, I was in a box of Cookie Crisp.
Oh man, that's dope. I haven't seen those.
Yeah, it's like they have the Cookie Crisp Wolf, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch like Gramoji or whatever it's called, and the Trix Rabbit. Like pretty much all the major General Mills guys, like Lucky the Leprechaun.
I got to get them. I got to fucking get them.
And there's rare gold ones too.
Wow. So you got to buy a lot of cereal to find the gold one, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
You guys know I'm built for this shit. I'm after it.
I'll eat all these boxes.
Where'd you find that shit? Walmart?
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
Okay, but I was trying to think of a theme that would go with Phantasm. Since like the tall man's kind of a telekinetic telepath, I figured I could show off my Jean Grey collection.
Okay.
Start off with the tiny Jean.
Marvel Universe.
Yeah. This is one of the few ones of those scaled ones I actually got because I didn't really collect those. But like I was just in Walmart and I like looked over and I saw her there. So I was like, I might as well get her.
Yeah.
And here's my first Legends, which was the original Phoenix.
Yeah.
But she's not too bad.
Yeah, she's all right.
She doesn't really hold much of a candle to this one though. This one's like way nicer, I think.
Yeah, she needs a better head. That one needs a better. The two pack that came with Dark Phoenix comes with different Jean Grey heads, and you would like the different Jean Grey head that came with it. Yeah, it's a little better than that head because it's. I mean, I love that figure though. She is awesome.
Yeah, she is pretty good. And, of course, the classic '90s Jean Grey from the 3-pack.
Jean Scott. Jean.
And we got most recent one, Age of Apocalypse Jean.
Yeah. Like that in 2.
And to wrap it up, I got a book that kind of goes with my theme. This is the first volume of Akira.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like these, I love these. The old black and white paperback ones.
Yeah.
Like I remember I've read the color ones. I had them in my library. Those were nice, but I mean, for the money, I'd rather go with the black and white ones. You know, and I think it
Very nice.
still looks good. I think it still looks good in black and white too. Like a lot of mangas like that now.
Oh, it's a masterpiece, bro. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, if you've only seen the movie, you should read the books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Way better. And I love the movie. The movie's great.
Yeah, I like Akira.
Akira's going to be one we're going to be talking about in Comics Revisited Season 3 with Brian. David says we should talk about a shirt, Wu-Tang Forever. So one more thing for show and tell, Brooks, your t-shirt.
It ain't none. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Not at all.
All right.
Yeah, George gave me this shirt, actually.
Wow.
Nice. Old G-Funk. All right. Jelani, show and tell. PCP, yo up. Show us.
All right.
You got.
Now they've been in the background this whole time, but these are all of the Power Rangers figures that I've accumulated. Like most of these I've accumulated in a day.
That's a cute collection.
But I've got it started with, of course, Trini. And I had to get Trini because I mean she's awesome. And one of my favorite Power Rangers. Hey, I gotta say, man. And then the next day I found Jason. And then I had to get Jason because, you know, I'm starting the Rangers now. And I knew this was going to happen. And I got a Zach. And I don't know. I mean, it kind of looks like him, but I don't think that looks like him as much. And it's
the head is very bad on that one, man.
The head is bad.
It is.
But I like that figure. But
I appreciate that they were going for season 2, Zach, though.
Yeah, with the dreads and stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that because that was my favorite Zach.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, but it still doesn't look like him, just like this doesn't. But I got Kimberly, and I mean, I was gonna ask you, do all the weapons they form up to the big weapon?
You know this, man.
Oh yeah, good. I can't wait to open these because I still got to get a Billy. And I still got to get two Tommies, the green and white Ranger Tommies.
Yeah, see, I haven't gotten my Zach yet. My set haven't come in yet.
Bro. Yeah, so I'm waiting for those. And then my next one is this y'all. Cool. My Batmobile. I got the 60s Batmobile. I saw it at Walmart for like 97 cents. And I was like, hell yeah. Do they have any more like this? And they don't. And I was so
racetrack setup.
Yeah, well, I want to. I still haven't seen the racetrack in the deep yet.
Well, I mean, like Robbie and Mike were doing they had a race hot track going for a little while.
That's what we did during the shutdown, bro.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like when the store was shut down and we were just doing curbside, like we built this fucking track. Like Mike made it. Like he watched this YouTube channel. We watched this shit called like 3D bot racing, right? And it was this dude that made this elaborate track. So we like made a track and then we bought a bunch of Hot Wheels and he already had a bunch. And we it was a big, crazy obsession there for a while. And Mike actually the other day was like, yeah, and you never fucking play Hot Wheels anymore.
Oh, God.
Because literally we were closed. So we had this thing like built over the long boxes of comics, this long ass fucking track. And we would time it. We would do photo fucking finishes, bro. We would have to because some of them, like we knew what our fastest cars were and everything, man. We should really, I want to do a tournament. You guys should get involved. Anyway, continue.
I've got plenty of cars, man. But speaking of Mike helped me pick this bad boy up. Pimp Destro. I am such a fan of this. At first, when I first saw the production videos of this, I was like, I hate this. I don't know why they would do this. Like Destro looks like crap. But my God, he's got money to burn, and he's got this like cheetah print freaking cape. It's nuts. And I never thought there would be a Pimp Destro. All I need to do is give him Kingpin's cane.
He's the coolest war profiteer on the block.
That's right. He is awesome. And then of course, the hardest damn thing I ever thought I'd ever find, but Mike also got this for me, and that was the Red Ninja. I've got 2 of them now. And Hitman Heart has 4 of them, so screw you, Tony. But I'm gonna build up this army because they look good, and they all come with the Snake Eyes weapons. So I was super pumped about that, and they all have storage for everything except the hatchets. The hatchets should have little rings and stuff, but he is so clean. I'm all about this figure. And then finally, another Mike thing. I traded an Iron Man to him, and this is Silk, and this is the fan favorite figure that won this year for 2020 for Hasbro Pulse. She looks awesome. The paint job's a little better. She comes with this cool thing. I would show you the regular one, but she's hanging from a string in my other room. One of these days, you guys, I'm gonna have to show you for show and tell my entire action figure setup, because I know Robbie hasn't seen it.
Weird stretch.
I'm just saying,
like it's almost like you should turn your like laptop around so that that's your background.
No, well, it's you don't get the scope of what I have. You'll never have the scope of what I have turning it around.
I got you. Mike says the track will be rebuilt when the upstairs is finished.
Cool.
Fable says, do they have Alpha? Mike says, yes, they have Alpha in the 2-pack with Zordon.
Yep.
In fact,
$30. Walmart's.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that at my Walmart.
You put a battery in the Zordon and he lights up, which is kind of cool.
I got to get that too.
So, yeah.
But I got to get my... Me too.
I hate Alpha so much.
He's so useless. But it comes with Zordon, and you need Zordon.
Yeah.
If you're going to have the Rangers.
I'm not getting into that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, here's the thing, Jelani. Here's a question before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
You are into the Hasbro Joes. You're into Marvel Legends, hardcore. You dip into like every fucking thing. Why even think about adding the Temptation to the Lightning Collection? Because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Mighty Morphin's going to be enough, but you just wait, bro. You just wait.
I'm good. Listen, I'll tell you why. Because I didn't get into the other ones. Now I did see Zeo. I do see Zeo Red with Tommy, and that looked cool. And I was like, I should probably get that. But I'm not gonna delve into that. And if I do, it'll be much later. I'm not getting into the other ones because I didn't
want to. Don't get into it.
I'm good. Mighty Morphin is where I stop. I'm so happy I got these. And of course, because of this figure, this is the reason I got into him to begin with. And because he looks so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I'm about that life. And the villains.
Yeah, one day you should read it.
The villains. Yeah, I heard about it. And
one day you should read it. It's really good.
I'll read it.
I'll sell you the trade. I'll cut you a deal.
Is it like, okay. Is it Boom Comics?
Yeah, it's Boom.
Okay.
Boom Studios, motherfucker. Where you been?
Boom Studios.
Boom Studios.
But yeah, I'm about that life now. So
don't worry. Now they're doing shiny versions of Mighty Morphin.
Well,
and here's the thing:
a show of like just annoying characters, like a show with Alpha, Orko, Snarf, and Snarf together as a team.
God, all the annoying characters.
That'd be too much.
Jesus.
All right. Anyway, that's it for the show. Yeah. We appreciate everything. Jelani, final thoughts. Let's wrap this up.
I'm coming for you, boy. That's it.
Okay. What about you, Brooks? Final thought.
You played a good game, boy.
All right. And for my final thought, you think when you die, you go to heaven? No, you come here.